No wonder you guys weren't hearing me. Hello, guys. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's been a long day. Gotta get this all combed out. Hold on here, chat. I gotta. There we go. My apologies. I looked like shit. Anyways. Anyways, chat, welcome to the show. Day 9 of Keefe D in the saga of Who Murdered Tupac Shakur. And then day 22 of Lindsay Clancy. We're actually technically it's day 23. Closing arguments. We're going to do both tonight before the 9:30 show. We're doing both, guys. We're doing both. It's going to be a big day. So let's get into it. Let's see. What are you guys saying? I'm repping the other team today. I know. Repping the Crips, chat. Yes, that's exactly what we're doing. That's what we're doing here. Jelly Jerome for 10 pounds sterling. The King Sterling. Says ding dong. LFJ is denied. Yes. Liz Fong Jones, more commonly known as Elliot Fong Jones, got absolutely fucking reamed out today in federal court. The subpoenas have been quashed. The judge found that it was fair use. We got total tranny death. KUSK lost. Everybody lost except for Matthew Harden and the Farms. Matthew Harden securing that epic victory royale. To quote the great voiceover Pete, for those of us who are a little older, a little more in the Unreal Tournament days, just known as a monster kill. Godlike. Unstoppable. But thank you. Chugi shows his late and practical yelling at chat. Who are good little chatters who ain't done nothing? I'll be the one who judges that. I'll decide. So, Liz Dong gone. Yup. Also, RIP to Peter Cullen, Optimus Prime. I didn't realize he was the voice of Eeyore, too. 2.0 is actually really sad because she liked Eeyore. That was her favorite. So, RIP to Eeyore and Optimus Prime. All those people dying in their 80s, man. All those people dying. Matthew Harden W, yes. Wicked sick. Do you think that those are the voices Lindsay was hearing? I don't know if she was hearing from Unreal Tournament. It would be great. Kill them. Double kill. Triple kill. She jumps out the window. Ultra kill. It's like she kills all 3 kids and it's like triple kill. Holy shit. Yes, headshot. Although she didn't shoot him in the head. Coffee Cats is well, there's a video game called Unreal Tournament, and when you would go on kill streaks, you'd have, double kill, triple kill. Unstoppable, godlike. Run around with the flat cannon. That was one of the best. Or you use the enforcer and you turn it sideways to shoot it faster. But I always like the flat cannon. That was a good one. That was always good. Yes. Rampage. So. Sometimes you have to laugh or you start screaming, yes. Killtacular. Yes. I need to do one night, sit here with my mixer on and do those where it's like put the voice in the right thing. Hold on here. Need to do that the right way. James is doing the Halo noob ones. Yeah. But no, I need to oh, I hate this. You click on it and nothing opens up right away. Ma! Ma! Get the camera! All right. What is the dashboard? Where is there we go. Effects. Let's see here if we can do this. Arena. Godlike. Unstoppable. Ultra kill. Double kill. Monster kill. That doesn't work as good as I thought. Yeah, not working.
What's monster, Mahone?
What does monster sound like? Oh, no. Monster kill.
Monster kill was amazing. Agreed. Yeah. Yes. First blood. Somebody's had a couple of cocktails. Nope. This is a drug and alcohol free stream. So, all right, guys, let's get started. Though we're gonna do day 9 of the Keefe trial. This is actually short. Let's get into it. It's time to roll. We're gonna get rolling like we're Josh Brolin. Here we go. All right, I'll put this on for you guys and let's get started. Voice. Sean. I just love how you do that. And guys, remember, this is the defense's case in chief. They're starting off with their witnesses. Here we go.
Rebuttal witnesses on deck in case they decide they want to call back. Anything we need to address outside the presence?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, let's bring the jury in.
Very nice. What are you smiling about? You're about to go to prison. Notice nobody else, everybody else, straight face. And she's not paying attention. But he's like, ha ha ha, it's the best day ever. It's like, buddy. I don't know, man. I'd be looking like I'm at a funeral if I were you.
Stand for jury.
Oh, it's a good question. Where does PPD getting these clothes? Through his family and his people. I'm sure that his attorneys in the lead up to this got a measure to make sure he had suits. And they got a couple, because I think he's had, I don't know if it's been the same suit every day, but they've had different shirts and different ties. So at least like on a trial like this, yeah, you're going to have to wear a shirt and tie. And they will make sure you can get somebody in to do measurements and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that's going to be supplied by Keefe D and his family. If this was a public defender case, they have food, they have clothing, ways of accessing clothing that they have on hand. Like I said, when I was in Toledo, we had a whole rack of clothes we give to people for court. And then there's times where like your client don't have any, your court appointed, your client don't have any money. You're running to Marshalls, you're running to Gabe's, you're running to, sometimes like for shoes, you're running to Goodwill, find a decent pair of shoes, dress shoes. Like you're doing what you can to get stuff work here. So you make do.
party stipulate to the presence of the jury. You may be seated. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are now into the defense case in chief. Mr. Stamp, who will be your first witness?
Your Honor, at this time I'd like to call Stan Height. Please stand.
Okay. You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Stan Height, H-Y-T.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Stamp, you may proceed.
Sir, I'm turning your attention back to the year of 1996.
Yes.
How were you employed?
I was with the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department. I was an officer working overtime on that date.
Okay. And when you say you were working overtime, how does that work exactly? Explain to the jury.
When there's certain special events, they ask people officers to sign and volunteer to work overtime assignments. They pay time and a half.
And you know what the reason was for the need for additional officers on this particular night?
It was a night that Mike Tyson was fighting. It was a collective people getting together for partying. We wanted to keep the peace, basically, keep things civil.
Right. And with regards to those types of events back in the day when we had boxing as our main feature,
Right.
There's a couple of us in the audience that probably is unfamiliar with how Las Vegas was. Can you describe for us a little bit about the just overall amount of people coming to Las Vegas for something like a fight?
Well, Mike Tyson was a big name. Obviously, I'm sure most of you all know him. He was making like $30 million a fight. He was winning his fights within a minute and a half, 2 minutes. And I think that particular night he did also. He won one of his fights, got paid big, and they were ready to party.
Now, and just to be fair, your role was not to deal with the Mike Tyson fight.
No, it was Sugar Night event. Yeah.
So you were, and just explain a little bit for the jury, what were your role that night? What were you supposed to be doing?
Basically, just keep the peace, make sure there was no fights, no shootings, nobody get killed, type thing.
Okay.
That was basically our.
And when you say you were there to make sure to keep the peace, where exactly were you?
At Sugar Knight's residence, there were several of us hired to do this assignment.
I'm now going to show you what's been marked and admitted
Yeah, well, admitted by stipulation, yes.
by stipulation. Looks like defense BDB, defense AAA, defense YY. May I approach them?
Those may be admitted.
Yes, that's the area that we were assigned. Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
And then just fix this one.
It's the same one. And that's an extended view of it. Yeah.
May I approach you, Honor?
You may.
Showing you what's been marked as defense exhibit YY. This, can you explain to the jury what this image is here?
This is a neighborhood involved. The green area, the park area up above would be.
So what you can do, sir, because we don't have a way for you to
Okay.
do that. First and foremost, is this an overall view of the Las Vegas Strip? Looks like an airport and a view of kids.
Yes.
Okay. You could actually step down off
Okay.
chair one and just point to an area that we're talking about. But before you do that, I'm going to show you what's been marked and admitted already as defense exhibit AAA. Do you recognize this photograph?
Yes.
Okay. And can you explain to the jury what this photograph is about?
That's the area of I think it's Sierra Rancho Estates, where Sugar Knight lived.
Okay. So up over here, just for the jury's edification, what would this be?
That's just a desert area.
Okay. Are you sure that's not the airport?
Is it? I don't see any runways, but I'm gonna have to take your word on that one.
That's fine.
Okay.
Down over here, do you recognize what this is here?
It's a golf area.
You can get a little closer if you want to that screen if it helps you with your vision.
You know, it's 20 years ago.
I know.
I'm sorry.
That's right. It's almost 30 actually.
Yeah, basically it's just Sunset Park. Whole. That's all.
If you could just help us out real quick and just point to the general area in which you were assigned that particular night.
Okay, I believe it was. I can't with any certainty. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So what we're looking at here.
No, it was adjacent to the park. I'm not getting the. It's been too long for me.
You can guys just sit down for that. Don't worry about that.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. It's been 30 years. Now, let me ask you this, though. Fair enough to say, as a police officer, if you are called to testify, God forbid, 30 years after an event occurs, what would be the material you would use to help protect
My officer's report at the time.
Right. And with regard to these officers' reports, for instance, critical piece of your tool set as a police officer?
Very critical.
So, like in this case there, you don't remember 30 years later certain things? Yes?
Right.
Okay.
I've really never patrolled that area. That was just an assignment for that one night for me.
Sure.
I've always been in the Northwest. So
No
I
worries.
wish I could have identified Suge Knight's residence better.
Now, in this particular regard, I'm going to turn your attention to the Suge Knight residence. Can you tell us what you actually did at the residence?
I was with another officer, and we were at a gate, and we basically stayed at the gate while an entourage of vehicles came through. Approximately 15 vehicles came through, and the last one being Suge Knight's.
Okay, now, with regard to the entourage of vehicles, where did they go?
In through the gate. I never went in through the gate, so I didn't see where they went after they entered the gate.
Okay. And with regard to the vehicles that went in, did you recognize or give note of any of the vehicles that were in there?
The last one was Suge Knight's. It was a cream-colored Cadillac.
Okay. And I'm sorry, I just want to make sure. The last one that you had was a cream-colored Cadillac?
Yes.
And why do you remember that vehicle?
Just pointed out to me at the time. It was occupied by 2 black males.
Okay.
And I didn't know Suge Knight at the time. I was kind of, interested in looking for Tyson at the time, and they just pointed that vehicle out to me as Suge Knight's.
Yeah. And fair to say, though, that sometime in the future, you were asked to obviously write a report on that particular issue.
Yes.
That was your officer's report.
Yes,
And in that officer's report, did you include the mention of a cream-colored Cadillac with 2 black male adults in it?
I did.
Now, after your view of the Cadillacs
Okay.
going into the residence,
Got
how
the
long
caddy.
after that did the shooting of Tupac Shakur occur?
Probably half an hour later that they came out, and it was probably 10 minutes later Mike Tyson actually entered. It's probably another 10 minutes after he came out again, and it was probably 10 minutes after that the shooting took place.
Okay, and just for the jury's edification, when you say Mike Tyson entered, meaning he came into the residence.
He came in, but not with the entourage of the first 15. The first 15 vehicles went into the gate. They all came out again. Mike Tyson went in the gate. He came out, and then we left. And at that point, maybe it was approximately 10 o'clock, I think the shooting took place.
Sir, I have no further questions of you. Thank you.
Okay.
Any cross? Hang on, Mr. Height. They might be cross. Mr. Giacomo, do you have any cross?
Very little. Officer Height,
Yes, sir.
if you could explain to ladies and gentlemen of the jury, when officers at the Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department want to work overtime, they can sign up for special events, and then the police department assigns you where to go for that particular event.
Yes.
And usually that works by a business or a lawyer or something setting up with the sheriff or one of the sheriff's employees.
And this is actually, guys, this may seem weird that you contact the police department to set it up, but this is how this helps keep accountability when it comes to overtime. It allows the police to act in their official capacities. It's not merely just, oh, hey, I found a gig and I'm going to go work it. No, the gig is cleared through the city. That way you're not doing something sketchy or really dangerous. So this is actually a normal way. Nowadays, professional police departments do overtime stuff and off-duty gigs.
A special request for, hey, I want officers for this particular event.
We have a special event. We had a special events section of the police department that businesses that would promote events would contact, and they would ask how many. They would ask how many officers they need, and officers would be called, and then we would show up at the assigned locations.
And so on this particular night, it was Metro that assigned you to this location in order to keep the peace for whatever reason.
Yes.
You indicated that you were mainly at the guard gate,
Yes.
and you saw a sequencing of events that occurred at the guard gate.
Yes.
At some point after the homicide, did somebody direct you to write your report?
Yes.
And during the course of that, did you know, first of all, who directed you?
I believe it was my lieutenant at the time.
Your lieutenant said, hey, we should document this.
Yes.
And one of the things you documented was not only that you were there, but that the guard gate security detail was called Allied Security and that they maintained a log of the vehicles that went in and out.
I believe that's correct.
Thank you very much. Nothing further.
Anything further, Mr. Sam?
Yes, Mr. Height, just one final thing. When you're doing this kind of work, it's for additional hours, right?
Yes.
What were you wearing on that particular night?
All right, hold on, chat. I don't know what happened here. Hold on.
Uniform.
And is that always the case?
Yes.
So even if you're, like, say, not at Suge Knight's residence, but say at some other club area in the parking lot, you'd still be wearing your
Yes.
uniform? Okay. No further questions, John.
There are different bureaus that can get assigned different things. I was uniform, so I was always uniform. There may be detectives or others that would respond differently, but my assignments were I was uniform, so I was always
What?
uniform.
Shut up!
Thank you, I appreciate it.
1 second.
Yep.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? We have some.
Oh, this will be interesting. This will be interesting here. Let's see what they have. I'm kind of curious because this wasn't a super huge witness. Did you miss Keefe testifying? No, you have not. You have not. Somebody asked, which Mike Tyson fight was this? So his fights
A couple
in
questions from our jurors. Did you notice any damage or bullet holes on any of the cars that came through the gate?
it was Bruce Seldon was the fight because Mike Tyson had a bunch of fights in '96. Back when he used to fight all the time. He fought in September, and then November 9th was against Evander Holyfield. So, but the night of the 7th was Bruce Seldon. So let's back this up a little bit. Here we go. There we go. All right.
A couple questions from our jurors. Did you notice any damage or bullet holes on any of the cars that came through the gates at Suge Knight's residence, especially the white Cadillac?
No, there was no damage on it.
No damage. Were any of the crew members carrying guns?
I didn't see any guns on any of the entourage people, no, because they were all in their cars. We all had guns.
Okay,
Uniform.
got it. Did you see the cream-colored Cadillac leave?
Yes. They all left.
Okay, when was that?
Close to 10 o'clock, I would say.
Okay,
Maybe 9:30-ish.
got it. Mr. Stamp, any further questions?
No, Your Honor.
No.
Okay, thank you. Now you're free to leave.
Okay.
Have a good day.
You too.
Thanks. Mr. Stamp, your next witness.
Your Honor, I would like to call Charles Mangrum, please, to the stand.
Charles Mangum. Okay.
Here we go. Now, I don't know what this is going to turn into for that. Yeah, here we go.
You do solemnly
Wandering
swear
up
the
there.
testimony you're about to give in this section shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Charlie Mangrum, CHARLIEMANGRUM.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Stamp, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Mangrum, turn your attention back 30 years from now.
Okay.
On the night of September 7th, 1996, what were you employed doing?
I was assigned as an overtime officer in charge of 3 other police officers to monitor a party that was supposed to happen at Suge Knight's house located on Tamiyasu.
Okay, I'm going to show you here some maps. I just want to see if you can help identify where this is located. May I approach?
Yeah, you may.
For the record, show me what's been marked and admitted. This could be Defense Exhibit CC.
Oh, come on.
You don't have that? That one's not admitted yet.
Oh, I have not. Let me just back up here. This is Defense Exhibit YY, Defense Exhibit AAA, and Defense Exhibit BBB. Just this one. When you're done.
Jeffrey lost his butler job for the Bankses. Can we write up? Yeah, could 2.0 write off a trip to Vegas for research? That would be fun. Oh. Very good idea. I don't think it will work.
Okay.
Do you recognize those aerial photographs?
Yes.
Let me just go ahead and say that they've been admitted ready by a stipulation between the parties. I'm going to just put this up on the screen for everyone to see.
Okay.
So with regards to the first photograph here, which would be the first aerial view here, this would be Defense Exhibit YY. You recognize this?
I told him it wasn't him.
Yes.
Now, just a general idea though, what is this a image of?
It's an aerial view of the gated community where Suge Knight lives.
Okay.
Of Tamiyasu.
All right, and just because of the fact that we're looking at an overall aerial view, it looks like it's Las Vegas.
Yes.
Can you step down and just point to the jury where on this photograph is the location of Suge Knight's house?
On this.
Yeah, you can step down. Thank you, sir.
This was a gate. Suge Knight's house was just about next door to the gate.
Okay, so just for our edification though, it looks like there is a, would that be an airport that's right there to the left?
Yes, Terry Mead Airport.
Okay, and the major cross streets that would be the area which we're talking about here, would that be what, Sunset and Eastern?
Tamiyasu runs to Sunset, and Eastern is to this direction.
Now, I'm gonna show you now what's been marked and admitted as Defense Exhibit AAA. Is this a closer image of the area that we're talking about?
Yes.
All right, can you point to the jury where that area is?
The Sunset Park, and this would be this is Suge Knight's area here. That should be Tamiyasu.
Okay. And then just one final image here. I'm showing you what's been admitted to by stipulation ZZ. Can you describe or tell the jury what we're looking at here?
Mr. Said this
This is
isn't
me.
admitted.
Tamiyasu
I'm sorry.
up to
Sir, Mr. Mayor, totally for Dixon.
I apologize. Mr. Sampson and I stipulated to all of these maps. I think maybe he didn't make the best record about that. So, but all of the maps that he has, we agreed to by stipulation.
Okay,
Sorry.
it's admitted via stipulation. Go ahead.
Thank you. And that's ZZ. Go ahead, sir.
yes, this would be Tamiyasu, and Suge Knight's house would have been just on the north of the main gate that we were working that night.
Okay, and that's all we need for you for that purpose. Now, in terms of what your job was that night, what were you assigned to do?
Apparently, there had been other parties following Mike Tyson fights at Suge's house, and the HOA or association had some issues with the number of people and the number of uninvited guests that showed up, and they wanted to have some police officers there to help keep the peace.
All right, and can you tell us what you were wearing on that particular night?
I was wearing a uniform,
All right.
police uniform.
And when you were there, were you able to notice any of the traffic of vehicles going in and out of the residence area?
Yes.
Can you describe for us any of the vehicles that had either gone in or out of the residence area?
Yes, at approximately about 10:10 to 15, Suge Knight driving a BMW, blue BMW, with Tupac in the passenger seat, came to the gate, and followed by, I believe, probably 5 or 6 other vehicles in line, which I described in my OR report.
Okay. Now, just to make sure I'm clear with your report, you don't have to do that right now. But with regards to your report, is that something that you do as a police officer? Is write a report?
Yes.
Now, in this case, obviously, you're just working. You're just. Were you asked by anyone to write a officer's report after your time working on this particular night?
Yes, I was. I don't recall who that was. So, yeah.
That's fine. And so the officer's report wrote, fair to say that that's something that you have done throughout your career as a police officer.
Absolutely.
And what's the reason for an officer's report?
Documentation, so that in the future you have something to go on if need be.
Now, with regards to your recollection for that night, did you what were the other vehicles that you remember entering into the residence area of Suge Knight and leaving the area of Suge Knight's residence?
Well, Suge and Tupac were there approximately 30 minutes, and they exited back out, followed by a cream-colored Cadillac, compact vehicle that was occupied by 4 females, and a few.
So now we're getting to, am I throwing a Roman? No. But I do love how it's like the HOA just didn't like, they were going crazy at the house probably.
other vehicles that I had referred to my office before now. But later on, following the time that Tupac and Suge left, Mike Tyson showed up as a passenger in a Bentley, followed by another Bentley that I believe was Don King's son. And we informed them that Suge Knight had told us that the party was no longer going to happen.
I see.
And then they turned around and left.
I see. And then your report was written. How long after the event that occurred that you're telling us did you write your report?
It's
I don't know what's going on, guys. Hold on.
dated the 19th of that month.
All right. Thank you, sir. I have no further questions.
Mr. Jacqueline, you may cross.
Lieutenant,
Hello.
you wrote this report at the direction of.
Hi, everybody. Hello, Robert Gouveia, Raiders. Gouveians, the Branch Gouveians. Thank you guys for coming over from watching the Watchers. We are watching the final day of the trial of Dwayne Keefe D. Davis. He's accused. He's the last survivor of the car of people who shot at Tupac Shakur and eventually killed him in 1996. He is considered to be the leader of the gang members that were in that car. And he claims in various interviews throughout the years that he basically ordered the hit and made it happen. Well, he's being prosecuted for it finally. This is now the defense's case in chief. They are presenting their witnesses. So here we go. And then we're going to switch over to Lindsay Clancy's closing arguments here in a minute. But thank you guys all for being here.
I'm not sure. It might have been the PIO's office or someone investigating the case.
On the second page of your report, it shows this was copied to Detective Brent Becker, P number 2838/homicide. So this would have been something that you would have sent to homicide to let them know this information.
Yes.
Now, in looking at your report, you indicate that, would you agree with me that at 21:30 hours, it's you and Officer Quick that are actually at the residence of Mr. Knight talking to somebody there, and Mr. Knight's not home?
No.
Then you say at 2200 hours, Officers Schmidt and Height were at the guard gate.
Yes.
When the cars came in.
When they started coming, yes.
And then at 22:15 hours or 20 hours is when you arrive at the gate.
Yes. Approximately, yes.
And at 22:30 hours is where Suge Knight, driving a black BMW with Tupac Shakur in the driver's seat, followed by the rest of the caravan, leave the residence.
Yes.
Now, what you received today, I believe you have there, is a 2-page report of mine. I have a bunch of attachments to it, so I just want to show you that. So that appears to be your 2-page report. The officer's report. There you go, the front. Is that your officer's report?
Yes.
Okay. And then behind it has basically all the various special assignments going on that night in the valley. Need your glasses to look at that.
I hadn't seen this.
All right. Okay. And that's just Metro kept record of all the various special events that evening and who was assigned where in case we need to look into that later.
Correct, yeah.
And then after that, there appears to be the gate log with the plate numbers of all the vehicles that were going in and out of that particular gate.
Okay.
Does that look accurate?
I haven't seen it. I've never seen it.
By looking at that, does this suggest to you that Metro Homicide in 1996 followed this lead and followed up on it?
Yes. Check your honor the leading.
It's a cross-examination.
Oh, yeah, you're on cross.
I'm on cross.
Sorry, this is weird.
Overruled.
Thank you. I have nothing. Oh, and when that white Cadillac left that guard gate, it was occupied by 2 black males as well.
Yes.
Mr. Stamp, anything further on the redraft?
Yes, Your Honor. Just with regard to the last question that was asked by Mr. Giacomo, sir, he says that it was a white Cadillac. It was either white or cream, as far as you know.
Uh-oh. I
That's
mean,
right.
is this
That's
gonna,
what you wrote in your report.
is it white or cream? Let's see. I think they're gonna go with, well, okay, so it was this white Cadillac that shot. It wasn't Keefe D in them, it was this other Cadillac. I think it's what they're gonna try to argue here. I don't think that's
That it was
gonna
a white Cadillac. It was either
I don't think it's gonna get them where they need to go here, but it's an interesting theory.
white or cream, as far as you know. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's what you wrote in your report.
Yes.
Thank you. No further questions.
Okay, anything further, Mr. Giacomo? On cross. All right, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for this witness? We may have one.
Let's see what they do. No, this is the Lindsay Clancy judge is a guy.
A question from one of our jurors. Could you say what model of caddy?
I don't recall that.
Okay. Anything further, Mr. Sam?
No, Your Honor.
Mr. DeDoffman?
No, no.
Okay, thank you, sir. You are free to go.
Thank you.
Got some things we got to read here. Rowan Coward's been a member for 24 months. Good to see you, Rowan. Been a little while. Hope you're well. Says Mike Tyson, the actor. Keopathic says Mike of Tyson Foods. Yes, I think it's a bit of a different Tyson. And then Keopathic says, excuse me, whose airport? It's McCarran Airport for life. Fuck Harry Reid. Hashtag not my airport. Yes, chat. Before Harry Reid died, it was known as McCarran International Airport. And now they renamed it. So, yeah. Yas, chat. Squizgar says it's when First Blood takes on a whole new meaning. Yes. Thank you. Coffee Cat for $5 says, this defense better be some David Copperfield levels of distraction. Well, I mean, it's interesting with this cream-colored caddy they're talking about. We'll see what that leads to. And then Radcon Hazard for $5. Thank you. Says the Flock CEO says we must compromise for safety. Gets Docs, has Google blurred his house. It gets the account that Docs nuked. Curious, ain't it? Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, isn't that funny how that works? Isn't that funny how that works? So,
Your Honor, the defense would like to call Dan Long to the stand.
Okay.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this section shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. May I please have you state and spell your first and last name for the record?
Dan Long. DANLONG.
Thank you, sir. Whenever you're ready, Mr. Sams.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Long, taking your attention back 30 years to September of 1996. How were you employed?
Las Vegas Metropolitan Police Department.
And at the time, what was your assignment?
I was a detective in gang crimes.
All right. Do you recall the night of September 7th, 1996?
I do.
What were you doing at that particular time?
I was on a gang enforcement team, and we had stopped a bunch of juvenile males about a block, more than a block, to the east and to the south. We had been requested to patrol that area because there had been some incidents, and they wanted to know if these were gang members. We had stopped them. We were talking to them. They were not gang members. And then we heard a volley of gunshots.
Okay, and when you say to the east and south, where exactly to the east and south are we talking about?
Sorry, Cobalt and Flamingo. We are one block to the east, and we were on a side street to the south. That area doesn't exist anymore.
Okay. Showing you a map here, an aerial photograph. This is defense exhibit YY. Do you recognize this map, this aerial photograph?
Yes.
Okay, and what is it of?
it's Flamingo and Sandhill. Flamingo and Coal Walls where the shooting occurs. The airport's right to the south. Carriage House is just to the south of where the shooting occurs. We were, if you zoom in, I could show you where we were.
Here's what we'll do. If you could just step out of your chair, just get out next to the screen. I'm going to get this a little closer for everyone to see so we can figure out where you're at. Does this help?
All right. There's an area here that's been bulldozed. You can see where the streets and the alleys had been right here. There used to be an apartment complex right there. There was one alley, 2 streets, and the area command that had that area wanted us to check to see if these were gang members. We went in, we stopped some juvenile males. They were not gang members, they were just juvenile males. While we were standing there talking to these males, we heard all the gunshots. We didn't want to talk to these males anymore, so we jumped in our vehicles and we moved to the shooting scene.
Okay. And what you're pointing at for the jury, just for the record, is the intersection of Cobalt and Flamingo?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate it. Now, fair to say, of course, you're there conducting your business as a member of the gang unit.
That's right.
You weren't there for overflow or anything to do with special events
No.
for the fight?
No.
Okay. Now, for some of us who weren't around during this time period, can you describe for us a little bit about the activity that was going on at the time in terms of the streets and people walking around when you heard the shots being fired?
It was packed. It was extremely, there was people everywhere, people walking, traffic was fully backed up. We had to get into the intersection. We had to use, we were in non-marked cars. So we were in plain cars. We moved into the intersection using red lights and sirens. We moved across, people were waving at us and pointing. There was a vehicle there that became of interest to us. Some girls had been shot at. While we had gotten out to talk to them and find out what was going on, we had no idea this was attached to anything. One of the guys on my team, Dino Kelly, found some cartridge cases in the street. So we started moving our vehicles up in the area to block off traffic so they wouldn't get run over and putting up yellow tape.
Now, once again, were you in charge of the investigation of either the shooting or the eventual homicide?
No.
All right. So at the time in 2000 or 1996, you were anything other than your gang unit detective?
Right. And at that time, we had found a shooting scene. We don't know what we have. So we're just securing the scene in case there are victims. And then we would find out what was going on.
At some point in the future, though, as you progress in your career, did you ever at any point leave the gang unit?
Yes.
And what did you do after that?
In 2000, I was invited to test to go into homicide. I then tested for homicide and went into homicide.
And what year was that?
2000.
Now, during the time that you were in homicide, that would have been from 2000 to roughly when?
I retired from the department in 2017.
So you spent 17 years in homicide?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, during the time period that you were in homicide, were you ever assigned
Okay.
the case involving the Tupac murder?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Okay. Let's stay a little bit. I just want to make sure. You were given the assignment at some point.
Yes, I was. 2004, my sergeant, Kevin Manning, handed me the file and said I would follow up any further leads.
All right. And can you explain to us a little bit about how that works? You're a detective. The file had been with somebody else prior, Detective Becker.
Yeah, Detective Becker and Detective Mike Franks.
Okay. And now you have the file. So what do you do as a detective when you're handed a file that's already been worked on?
You read it. You read it. I went through the pictures. I then discussed it with my sergeant. I went down to California. There was a lot in that file, and I didn't know Compton very well. I didn't know Compton at all. So I went down. I had ridden in the gang unit with gang detectives, and I knew them still. So I called and said, "Can you take me around and show me these things?" So we drove around Compton, and they showed me houses where the Compton Crips lived. They showed me where Orlando Anderson died. They showed me a lot of different things. And Compton was very small, but it was very impacted with gangs.
Now, during this time period, can you describe for us a little bit about was there still an interest in the murder of Tupac at the time that you took over the case? Meaning, was there media attention? Maybe not to the level it was in the beginning, but was there still issues with regards to access to the file and that kind of thing?
Yes, there was. Now I know where you're going.
Yeah, and what I mean by that initially is that even in Metro, was there any concerns on your part about unauthorized access to the file?
Not by me. I wasn't concerned, but my lieutenant had become concerned and wanted to sequester the file away from everybody else because there was a lot of people going in and looking. Very, very famous person.
And with regards to the going,
And that's
and
pretty
looking,
important.
describe to the jury what type of activity we're talking about here in terms of going and looking.
I didn't do any investigation in this, but my lieutenant told me
that people had been going in and being curious, looking at the file.
Did you at any point, was there any measures that was taken to preserve the safety and security of that file?
Yes.
What were those measures?
They locked down the file itself, which was the hard copy of the file. We used to, at that time, we were on a computer drive called the F drive, which turned out to be too small, and they later moved it to another drive because homicide just kept growing. So they changed the way I did my reports. I would hand them in, and they were secure.
Okay. Now, we talked a little bit about reports. What reports are we talking about here?
The one that popped into my mind, the very first one, there was supposedly, this was an anonymous tip that there was a rolling 60 apartment over on Reno that was slinging drugs, and that the people that shot Tupac had driven up to this apartment and handed the gun off.
Rolling 60s, guys, the Rolling 60s are a major set of Crips. The Rolling 60s are like nationwide, actually. They kind of are going everywhere. They're a very big Crip set. There's also the 5-2. Like, I forget what movie it is, but like Hoover Deuce, like the Hoover 5-2, like that's another set of Crips. But the Rolling 60s are a big deal. They would have got along with the Southside Crips, but like there would have been tension at times. So, yes, the F drive, no one would look there. Yes. So, yeah, the Rolling 60s they've suffered big RICO cases federally. Yes. But that's what they're talking about. There's all kinds of gangs like this, especially in LA. They started in LA, the Rolling 60s.
For drugs. I then attempted to locate, usually gangs are going to rent an apartment, they're going to rent it in a girl's name. So I was looking I'm talking 8 years after the fact. I'm talking about trying to find an apartment rented by a girl that has association with the Rolling 60s. I never found it. So I couldn't track down the 60s. They may have the gun that would be attached to the killing of Tupac.
I see. And during the time that you were performing your duties as the detective on this particular file, did you ever keep your own officer's reports?
Yes.
And just explain for us a little bit about your common course of how you would do that.
An officer's report is like who, what, when, where, why. So you say that there was an anonymous tip. Let's just talk about this tip. Anonymous tip at this date. I did these phone calls, met with this apartment complex, and couldn't locate anybody that was attached to the Rolling 60s in any fashion. So it literally would be an officer's report that's maybe a paragraph. There was another tip that the gun had been dropped from the shooting vehicle that went back to California that night, and it was on the side of the road. Ridiculous. But 8 years later, we went out and we walked that section of the freeway, both sides, looking for a gun. We didn't find one. That officer's report was about a sentence. And those kind of things, those kind of things are the things that we were trying to run down.
All right. And so in terms of officer reports, fair to say that there would be a lot of officer reports of your efforts in this particular investigation.
Those officer's reports don't exist anymore that I could find.
Okay. And why is that?
From what I was told was when we moved from the F drive to the H drive, those reports had to be scanned, and at some process they were lost.
So what we're relying on, clearly, it would be your recollection of what you remember from that time period.
Correct.
Okay. And once again, if you don't remember, you don't remember. Okay. Now, at some point, though, you have an opportunity to interact with law enforcement officers in Compton. Or is it no, I'm sorry, at that particular point, it would have been the sheriff's department, LA Sheriff's.
Yes, I usually went directly to LAPD, but yes, the sheriff's office also.
LAPD. Can you tell us a little bit about any interaction you might have had with them, specifically about a firearm?
You're talking about the 06?
Yes.
Yeah. I received a phone call from the Los Angeles Sheriff's Department saying that there was a gun recovered by Compton PD in 1998. The yard of 1301 Sloan, which is inside the Compton area. The Compton Crips area, I should say. And they believe that this gun was supposedly buried in the backyard, and it was turned over to the Compton Police Department. The Compton Police Department dissolved. And so the Sheriff's Department was starting to run all these guns through ATF and ballistics. And they believe this may be the gun that we were looking for. They were fairly adamant that this was the gun that we were looking for, that was the murder weapon of Tupac. I then made a drive to LA with my sergeant. We picked up the gun. They had it in a evidence box. I decided
receipt to them that they kept. I then drove the gun back to Las Vegas, drove it directly to our ballistics lab, and I turned the gun over to Jim Krylo. I then filled out a request to have that ballistics tested against the gun that was used to kill Tupac. Before I managed to drive back to the office, I received a phone call and they told me it was not. I told him that he wanted me to come back and pound it and put it into our evidence vault. I told him I'd come back in the morning and I would pick up the gun and I would take it back to LA because it may be of interest to LA in another crime.
And outside of that particular incident, were there any other instances where you found what potentially could be the gun in this situation and had it tested?
Myself, no, but there were thousands of guns that were tested.
And as far as you know, as the responsible detective at that time, were any of those thousands of guns come back with a hit or match to the spent cartridge casings that we found in the scene?
No.
Now, in addition to that, at some point in the future, you travel to California again to conduct an interview.
Yes, sir.
That would have been in 2009.
Correct.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about who was there in that interview?
Sure. Myself and my lieutenant, Lou Roberts, made a drive after I received a phone call saying that there's somebody that wanted to give information about Tupac and Tupac's murder. We then drove down on the morning of September 9th. They wanted us to meet them at the HIDA office, which is at 1340 West 6th Street in LA, which is about 6 blocks from Plaza One. We met them there. I would then met Detective Darren Dupree, and he told me that Dwayne Davis, also known as Keefe, was in the interview room. He had his attorney present, whose name was Wayne Higgins, and we were going to go in and he was going to give me information. And he further explained that Keefe had got caught with a large amount of narcotics and was trying to work off those charges.
Now, sir, and just to cut you off there, but I apologize. But with regards to that information, at some point you conduct an interview in that room.
Yes, sir.
With Mr. Davis.
With Mr. Davis, with his attorney. My lieutenant didn't want to go in, so Darren Dupree agreed to go with me.
All right. And there was a recording. Did you record the meeting?
I did.
Okay. And is that just standard operating procedure for what you do as a detective?
Yes, I was told that they were going to record it also, but I wanted to record it myself. That way I have it in my hands.
Okay. And during the course of that meeting, you learned information, right?
Yes, sir.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the interaction here? Were you ever asked to leave the room?
Yes, sir.
Can you tell us why you were asked to leave the room?
Mr. Davis became very nervous. I was asking questions that he didn't feel comfortable with, which is to be expected. And he asked me to leave the room. He wanted to talk to his attorney and he wanted to talk to Detective Dupree. I then stepped out of the room for not very long, and then they asked me to come back in.
Was there ever a time that you left the room and was accompanied by Mr. Dupree and only had Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis in the room by themselves?
I don't recall that.
So every time you left, Mr. Dupree was in the room with Mr. Higgins and Mr. Davis?
Yes, sir.
Now, at some point, you were able to learn some information.
From Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
When you came back, did you corroborate any of the information?
I tried.
Okay, what did you do? What efforts did you make?
During the interview, Mr. Davis indicated first that Orlando Anderson or Baby Lane had been beat up at the MGM, which we also had video of. I think everybody on the planet has seen this video. He was complaining that his arm was either broken or out of socket. He first told me that they had gone back to California and had gone to the hospital in California, but he said they went to the hospital on Maryland Parkway, and the hospital on Maryland Parkway is Sunrise, and that he had gotten a sling for his arm. So I filled out a subpoena, and I wanted to know if Orlando had signed in, was examined in any fashion. And now we're talking, this is 2009. We're talking about somebody coming into the emergency room in 1996. So I didn't find anything. They couldn't apply. They couldn't give me anything with Orlando's name on it. We were looking into, there was a rented Cadillac, rented in Compton by a friend of the gang. Her name was, or her daughter's name. There was a woman by the name of Harris, and first name could have been Teresa, could have been Tessa. And again, we're talking multiple years later. But I called down trying to locate a Cadillac that was rented in 1996. They said it was a friend of the gang. So It's very possible that there was no paperwork on it. But we're going to try. I called multiple rent-a-car places because he couldn't remember which rent-a-car place it was.
Very common as well. Stuffed off the books. It could have been just a friend. But also remember what he said. You know, you put a lot of stuff in your girl's name, your baby mama name. You know, that's like big timers in a song. Got everything in my mama name, my mama name. That's how these guys roll. Andocio saying, what's happened today so far? The defense has called a couple of cops who were at running security to show that maybe there was a car in the entourage of Suge Knight and Tupac that may have been white or cream colored. So that's necessarily not Keefe D. That's kind of where we are right now. And then this is one of the investigators initially. So.
And I never found anything connected to that date or those dates around that for a four-door white Cadillac of any kind.
Now, in addition to that, sir, did you ever run at some point any names to determine, sort of help you out with the landscape of who's who and what's what? For instance, did you ever run a name by the name of Darnell Grimm?
Oh, you're talking about before the interview?
Yes.
When I received the call that we were going to go down and do an interview, I ran everybody that was in the file. And the purpose of that being is if I'm in the middle of an interview and he mentions somebody, I might have information, this person's in jail, this person's dead, this person's in prison. Those could be very useful to me in the middle of an interview. When I go into the interview, I'm going to be acting very non-informed. I don't know anything. Please tell me. So he's like, okay, we're talking about Pac. Okay, who's Pac? Well, Tupac, sure. Okay, so I'm going to do that through the entire interview. But if I have more names and more information, I at least know what he's talking about, so I can direct him in the right direction to give me a full name or a full description, whatever it may be. So I ran quite a few people before I went down there.
Okay. So at some point you leave that interview and you come back to Las Vegas.
Yes, sir.
Were you ever aware that in 2008, Mr. Davis made an offer to the FBI, DEA, Compton PD, LAPD?
While I was there?
Yes.
No. I was told that he had been, Dwayne Davis was arrested on a major drug case, and he was facing the rest of his life in prison. And he was trying to work that case off. So when I was sitting out there and I learned that he's sitting there with his attorney, I'm like, he's not going to tell me anything. They're like, well, he's trying to work this off and it's about Tupac. And I'm like, all right, let's try this. So we went in, but we finished, we made a drive over to Plaza One. Then we left. I received some phone calls at that point and received more information when we got back to Vegas that there could be possibly a problem, which made no sense to me.
Now, just one final question for you, and it's unrelated to anything that we've asked so far. The question is this: are you aware of a program here in town called Barry's Boxing?
I've heard of it.
Okay. I have no further questions.
I don't know what that did for you. Asking.
Good. How are you,
that.
Mark? I'm Mr. Jackman.
You went to homicide in 2000, correct?
That's correct.
And Mike Frankston, Brent Becker. Well, I guess Mike probably retired before Brent left the unit, correct?
Well, he trained me for a while. Mike was preparing to retire, so the desk I was going to get was his. And I was trying to soak up as much as I could from him because he was a very, very senior detective. Him and Brent Becker were very, very good detectives, so I was trying to suck up as much as I could. That was the squad I was going to anyway.
And when Sergeant Manning hands you the Tupac file, you already had an understanding from Mike Franks and Brent Becker of who you thought was in the car.
Yes, sir.
And when Mr. Davis in 2009 tells you that, it's the same people.
Yes, sir.
I think Mr. Samft maybe missed one of your trips to Compton prior to, I guess, November of 2004 when he died. In early 2004, did you try and make contact with Big Dre Smith?
Yes.
And describe that for us.
I was with actually a gang squad, and this is during the time when you can read it all. You can read all this information, but it's better if you go down there and look at it, so I went down to look at it, and they were taking me on a tour, most of Compton. They took me to the car wash where Orlando died, that kind of thing. While we were driving by the Emerson Elementary School, which is right in the center of the Compton turf, some of the guys I was riding in the back seat, and taking notes. They said, there goes Big Dre, DeAndre Smith, which is somebody that's obviously in Brent Vector's files. And he was walking through the field, the grass field. So I was like, well, stop. Let me talk to him. You know, try. You know, I have no probable cause. I have no legal right to make a stop. I'm not even in my jurisdiction, but I can try. So I stepped out of the car and I said, Mr. Smith, I'm Detective Long from Las Vegas.
Isn't that weird? He's like, I know I'm not supposed to do this, but I'm going to ask anyway. You know, at times you're like, a little frustrating there how they're doing this.
And he said, F you and F off. He's not censoring what he said. And he just lumbers across the field. So I had no reason to stop him. So I just waited.
Now, in 2009, you wind up in a room with Mr. Davis, and your belief is he's trying to work off charges. What does that mean?
He's looking at the rest of his life in prison for what they had caught him with. So if he gives substantial information about cases, and that's what they had brought him in for, was to give information about cases. One of the cases was the Wallace case, notorious B.I.G. During this part of it, he started telling them about Tupac, and this is in 2008, I believe. So that's what I was told.
But essentially, and I want to talk about specifically, what is just working off your charges? Does Metro have certain rules, let me ask you, about working off charges and how you work off charges?
Yes. And a non-victim crime, you can work off charges. You can't work off a murder. You can't work off a sexual assault. Those are victim crimes. If you have a victim, you can't work off those charges. But if you have something else that, like a lot of drugs, you can work off maybe the amount of years you're going to do by giving substantial case information on other cases. So that's what I believe that Mr. Davis and his attorney were trying to do, was to knock off a certain amount of time off of what he was going to spend in prison.
And you know, or at least you believe, you'd agree with me, that Mr. Davis was a suspect in your homicide, not a witness.
Yes, sir.
And by the end of that interview, what is your intent?
My intent was to drive back to Las Vegas, type up a warrant for an arrest, clear it with the district attorney, and have Mr. Davis arrested for murder.
Now, at that point, did you and members...
That's interesting. That's an interesting issue. He was already good. He's like, I wanted to go file. I kind of want to know why you didn't. What stopped you? Huh. Let's keep going.
Members of my team have an opportunity to actually listen to the recording.
Yes, sir.
And we heard the section where you're not in the room, correct?
That's correct.
And then, so did we give you some direction?
Yes. So this is several weeks after I come back. I met with... This is several weeks after I had come back from California with the recording. So we brought the recording and the transcription over. The DA reviewed it, and they invited me over, and they told me that they were not going to go forward with prosecution at that time because they're...
Let me ask it this way. Were you directed to find out the circumstances of why it was that a suspect in our homicide was in a room with his lawyer and a task force officer having that conversation?
Yes, sir.
And at this point, you've been told there might be a proffer somewhere out there in 2008.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
And proffers are between lawyers and sovereigns, correct?
That's correct.
So it's either got to be the U.S. Attorney's Office or the Los Angeles District Attorney's Office, but it certainly wasn't the state of Nevada or the Clark County District Attorney's Office.
That's correct.
And did you make efforts?
No, it's not true at all. DAs sign off on those. Those are really serious. Like, they sign off on those.
To find out from Wayne Higgins what the nature of that
garbage.
agreement was between him and some other sovereign.
Yes, Mr. Higgins as well as others. Yes.
And you would agree with me that Mr. Higgins wouldn't return our calls.
That's correct.
Did you attempt to contact U.S. Attorney Seawright?
Yes.
And you would agree with me, Mr. U.S. Attorney Seawright, at least at that time, would not return our calls.
Correct. Would not speak to me.
And by the time, well, let me ask you this. Based upon that situation, did you get directed to reach out to Darren Dupree to see if we could get leverage on the driver, Terrence Brown?
Yes, I did reach out to Detective Dupree, and Clarence Brown is a gangster operating in Compton, California. So he's going to be committing crimes.
I asked him if he gets arrested for whatever reason to give me a call, and I want to come down and talk to him. Yeah.
And ultimately, that never happens. You never get a phone call saying, hey, we got Bubble Up in custody. Come down here. Let's interview Bubble Up.
Correct. Bubble Up is the street name for Mr. Brown.
And so by the time you retire in 2017, we have no statement from Bubble Up.
No.
And we still don't know the circumstances surrounding why those three people were in a room talking to you.
No, I believed I did at that time, but obviously I didn't.
Thank you. Nothing further.
Redraft.
Sir, can you tell us who from the district attorney's office you were speaking to during that time frame?
Mostly it would be Pam Merkley.
Who was the other United States or the district attorney as well besides Pam Merkley?
The entire MVU.
Was it Mr. Gerard? Did Jock know one of those individuals?
Yes, sir.
Now, at the time, who was the elected district attorney? Was it
Mr. Wilson?
Was it Steve Wilson?
Yes.
Now, not David Roger?
No, I don't believe he was there anymore.
All right. Now, your testimony here is that you had every intention when you came back to charge the case.
Yes, sir.
And when you came back, you reached out to the district attorney's office and you said, hey, we think we should charge this case.
Yes.
And they did not immediately give you a response as to what they were going to do.
No, they told me to stand down and they were going to review it. I got the information to them as quickly as I could. It had to be typed up by one of our secretaries, but I did make sure they got the audio as quick as they could. There was plenty of probable cause to arrest for murder.
Sure. Now, just for the jury's education, probable cause is not beyond reasonable doubt, fair?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
Probable cause is not beyond reasonable doubt, right?
No, that's what we do here.
That's correct. And in terms of the information that you had learned at the time that you met with Mr. Davis, did you verify any of that information?
Say it again. I'm sorry.
Did you verify any of the information in that recording in 2009 that Mr. Davis said?
I wasn't able to.
And once again, verification meaning corroboration, right?
That's correct.
In fact, I think on the recording, you had told Mr. Davis a couple times, look, even though what you're telling me you might say is the truth, I still need to corroborate this information.
That's correct.
And that would have been your standard operating procedure with anyone telling you anything.
That's correct.
So, for instance, as you're sitting here right now, do you have any?
I'm going to object to leading. It's his witness.
I'm sorry, I'm so
It's hard, I know.
Let me ask it this way.
You're gonna rephrase.
Yes, I'll rephrase. Did you make? Was there any information did you ever receive about whether or not Mr. Davis was in Las Vegas in September of 1996?
Well, objection leading.
He can say yes or no. Overall.
Did I?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah,
And
you can do that.
Was there? Did you ever have when you reviewed the file of this case? Were there any people calling in saying that they did it? They did the murder?
Sure.
I mean, can you give us a number or an amount?
There was a lot. There was quite a.
This is actually really good. A lot of people claimed it. It's not a bad idea.
Few. I mean, I had information that Bill Clinton had him killed. I mean, there was no, we did not. There was a lot of calls, a lot of people claiming to have been involved. No.
Yeah. And fair to say,
Most
though,
of the time they couldn't get any of the information correct.
right. And so when you're determining, for instance, a confession, what are you looking for? Like, if someone says, I confess to this, what information do you use to determine whether it's correct or not?
They're like, what kind of vehicle were you in? How did the shooting occur? What kind of firearm was it? Where did you go from there? What preceded it? How did you? All of it. I mean, anything that you can find as in facts, you want to connect to them. I'm behind the eight ball because I'm 15 years after the fact or 14 years after the fact trying to corroborate different things. But I mean, I made the attempts.
And with regard to the information that we're talking about here, was any of the information you're sharing with us already available to the public?
I don't know. I'm sure there was information that's out there. I mean, there was so much interest in the case. I'm sure there was.
Now, just finally, in terms of you're reaching out to people, Mr. Seawright, who was he?
The Attorney General of California.
And the district attorney's office requested that you reach out to the Attorney General of California?
They were going to do it. I was going to do it. Whoever could do it, which would be great.
And then in terms of the other people, Mr. Dupree or Detective Dupree, when was the first time you ever met Mr. Dupree or Detective Dupree?
I'm not positive.
Was it in the meeting at 2009?
No, I met him before that.
Can you give us sort of an estimation as to when it was?
A couple of years before. I think it had to do with one of the gun trip. I think is when I met him.
And just for my identification with that gun, was it a real gun?
Yeah, Glock 40. There's a lot of Glock 40s out there. I had no idea there was that many.
Thank you. I have no further questions.
Oh, nonsense. You know there's a ton of them.
Mr. Sam said, were you able to corroborate information that Mr. Davis gave you? You're talking about information you didn't already know, correct?
Correct.
There was a substantial amount of information in this file that Mr. Davis, Mr. Brown, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Smith were in the car the night when the murder occurred.
Yes. The way I took when he asked me that is, did I do cooperation? Brent Becker and Mike Franks, the original detectives, corroborated a lot of different things. I didn't specifically go back in time and do what they did.
You were relying upon the information they already had. So when Mr. Davis is telling you this story, it's not like the crazies that are calling saying, I killed Tupac or Tupac's still alive or all any of that stuff.
That's correct.
Nothing further.
Any redirect? Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, any questions for Detective Long?
I wonder if this will be good. I mean, honestly, Sam knows these guys weren't going to save the day, but Keefe D's like, "Whoa, I bet they scored some points." It's like, buddy, I don't think so. Also, real quick chat, some of you guys might be wondering what, like, some basic game graffiti here. Like, this is what the Rolling 60s, like, there's simple stuff like this, Crip. And then this is another good one here. BK is a blood killer. So, yeah. So just so you understand, yeah, that's yeah. Google AI calls Tupac one of the greatest actors of all time. Really, yeah. Oh, funny. Anyways, let's get back to this. Keefe D's like, yeah, he's clapping. He's like, yay. No, I understand. Yeah, see, he's like, we got this. We got, like, I don't think you got this, buddy. I don't think you got this. I don't think you got this. That's Burger King. No, that's not what that's meant for. No, but it's killing them bloods. Let me get my rest. There you go, chat. All right, what? I thought we were going to do it. Why are we not talking about him? Come on.
When your lieutenant said too many people were going.
Hold on here.
When your lieutenant said too many people were going into the Tupac murder file, what did they mean?
Yeah, good question. Officers were curious, and they would go in and see what was in there because there was a lot of stuff in social media. So they were going in to look and read. So he decided that wasn't going to happen anymore because the information could get out. So he locked it down.
Were you the only one assigned to Tupac's case?
In 2004, Sergeant Manning handed me the case to do any follow-up. There was a full squad I was on, 6 detectives and a sergeant. All of them were available to help. And we had some very experienced, very talented detectives on the squad. So I would lean on them. Everybody's curious, why would they hand the case to a rookie? But I had access to some very, very experienced, excellent detectives.
Were you able to interview everyone who occupied the cream or white Cadillac? Or is alleged?
No, I tried to talk to DeAndre Smith. He died that same year. Orlando died in 1998 in a shootout in a car wash. And Mr. Brown died in, I believe it was 2015.
Did you ever interview Suge Knight about the shooting during the interview process?
I tried. I had a partner that had played football with him and knew him very, very well. And I was complaining that I could never even talk to Suge on the phone. So my partner says, I can make a phone call. We can have it right now. And he made a phone call, talked to Suge, and Suge hung up on him. It was same old.
Do you know which arm was hurt, right or left arm, for Orlando Anderson?
No, I do not. Sorry.
Were you able to verify and confirm Mr. Davis was actually in the white Cadillac the night of Tupac's murder? Yes, that's the question. Sorry, the handwriting.
Sorry, can you read it again?
Yeah. Were you able to verify and confirm Mr. Davis was actually in the white Cadillac the night of Tupac's murder?
By Mr. Davis telling me that he was in a white Cadillac on the night of the murder, and that the shooting came from that same white Cadillac.
Any follow-up based on that, Mr. Saft?
But no actual facts outside of what Mr. Davis told you.
No.
No further questions.
Mr. DeJock?
No.
You are excused. Thanks, Detective Long.
Thank you.
That was kind of interesting. Okay.
Mr. Saft, any additional witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Do you rest?
We do, Your Honor.
State any rebuttal witnesses.
No, Your Honor.
So not reopen your case. Okay, so at this time, the presentation of the evidence in this case is closed. What we have to do amongst ourselves is settle the law that applies to this case. And we are going to have everyone back on Monday at 9 a.m. for closing arguments. Please, during the recess, you're admonished not to talk or converse amongst yourselves or with anyone else on any subject connected to the trial, or read, watch, or listen to your report for commentary on the trial of any person connected to this case by any medium of information, including without limitation, newspaper, television, internet, and radio, or form or express any opinion on any subject connected with the trial until it is submitted to you. Please rise for the jury, everyone.
We're going to watch the last 2 minutes of this chat, then we'll move on to Lindsay Clancy.
All right, the jury is exited. You can be seated. Scheduling wise, what remains to be done is jury's instructions being settled. What time do we want to do those tomorrow? I was leaving that up to defense because there were some obligations that they had.
We still have some curtain. 9 o'clock.
Does 9 o'clock work better for you? We'll do tomorrow at 9 then?
Yes.
And I think we should be done by the time that you need. And Mr. Davis, do you want to be present to settle jury instructions? It's up to you. It's kind of like legal arguments. If you want to be here, we'd be happy to have you. If you don't want to be here, you don't have to. You want to waive your appearance for that? Okay. So I'll then just see the attorneys back 9 a.m. tomorrow.
I've had clients do that. They're like, I ain't sticking around for that. Now, if you're out on bond, guess what? You're showing up. But he's in custody, so they're like, we don't have to bring you. Yeah, Keefe, he's like, so who's our next witness? You. It's like, it's a good thing he didn't testify. He would have got destroyed had he have done it. So, no, I'm glad he didn't testify. That'd have been bad. YOT says, first time watching this trial, good to see Dick Masterson, also known as Juju the Cow, man who dresses up as a big cow and has a woman peg him with a sparkling dildo. Make fun of something of himself. Yes. He does look a bit like Dick Masterson. Just a bit. So, yeah, there we go, guys. That is Tupac Shakur's murder trial, and I think that they're going to convict him. I don't really see how they don't. Makes the most sense that they do. It really does make the most sense that they do convict him. Really, I don't know how you can't say they can't at this point. Just honestly, chat. And we've got Lindsay Clancy here. We are going to get right into hers. And let's get started. And remember, chat, we go a little bit faster. On these. Oh, Don Flurgandy's live. Good. Shout out Don Flurgandy, channel 404. So here we go.
Good morning, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, before the court today, we have the matter of Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Ms. Clancy is present. She is represented by Attorney Kevin Reddington. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shane Buckingham.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, counsel. Good morning, Ms. Clancy. All right. The party's ready for the jury?
Yes.
All right. I'll bring that.
Court, all rise. Jury's entering.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye. All persons having anything to do before the honorable.
Hear ye, hear ye, hear ye.
Now sit in your place within the floor of the Commonwealth. Your Honor, give your attendance, and you shall be heard. God save the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This court is now in session. Please be seated.
Good morning, Your Honor. May I proceed?
Yes, please.
Your Honor, before the court today, we have the continuation of the jury trial in the matter Commonwealth versus Lindsay Clancy. Ms. Clancy is present. She is represented by Attorney Kevin Runnington. The Commonwealth is represented by Assistant District Attorney Jennifer Sprague and Assistant District Attorney Shannon Buckingham.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Well, good morning, everyone. All right. You know how we're going to start this? I'm going to ask you those questions. And just in case you're wondering, does this podium up here mean that I'm going to talk to you for quite a while this morning? It does. All right. So first, let me ask you the questions. Has any member of the jury read, seen, heard, or overheard anything from any source about any aspect of this case that would affect your ability to be a fair and impartial juror? Secondly, is there any other matter or concern bearing on your service as a juror in this case that anybody needs to bring my attention at this time? All right, again, as I've said for weeks now, thank you for following those instructions. And so where we are now in the process is, I just want to explain a little bit to you. We're going to do what we call the arguments in charge. All right. And that just means I'm going to give the charge as my instructions. All right. I'm going to instruct you on the law that you are to apply in this case to the facts that you're going to find. And then the argument part is we're going to hear the closing arguments from the attorneys. And the way we do it, the way I do it is I kind of split it up. So I'm going to give you first half of my instructions. We'll talk a little bit about the specific charges in this case. And then after the closing arguments, I'll come back and give you some more general instructions about how you, the burdens of proof and how you are to go forward and do your deliberations and handle the deliberations. All right. So they take a while. All right. And they could be, well, they can't, I was going to say rather dry, but they are dry. And so what the parties and myself have agreed to do.
In chat, we are going to skip the argument. We're going to skip the jury instructions. I don't need to sit here and contemplate like jumping out of a window myself.
I'm going to print out, we printed out the instructions that I'm going to read to you. So you'll have those with you, all right, as we go through this morning. And so some people find that helpful to read along and comprehend. Some people don't. So if it's distraction, you don't have to read it. But some people find it helpful, so we thought we'd do that. You also should know that you'll have these instructions. You can bring these with you in the deliberations. So you'll have this whole outline of what the law is so that you are to apply. All right. So at this point, if we could hand out the copies of the instructions. Oh, you already have those? Oh, I forget how efficient our court officers here are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start the instructions now. All right. So my instructions on the law are going to be delivered to you in two phases. As I said, first, I'm going to instruct you on the specific indictments that have been brought against Ms. Clancy. After I conclude my instructions regarding the charges, the Assistant District Attorney, Ms. Sprague, and Attorney Reddington will each deliver their closing argument. Remember, the arguments of counsel are not themselves evidence. They're provided to assist you in organizing and understanding the evidence that's been presented during the trial and the conclusions that each party would like you to draw from that evidence. At the conclusion of the attorney's closing arguments, I'll give you the second part of my jury instructions. And in that phase, I will give you and go over a number of very important principles that will guide your overall evaluation of the evidence, your deliberations.
All right, guys, I'm sorry. We're going to skip ahead to where they actually start talking here. Like, let's actually get into this. Where is... Well, that's a lot of pills on the desk right there. Look at all those pills. Okay, so I think we get to, let's start here.
Risk of harm to another. However, the act constitutes wanton or reckless conduct if a reasonable person, knowing what the defendant knew, would have realized that the...
Those are mints? It's like, she's sitting there, she's got her Xannies, like, it's like Hungry Hippo. She's like, I need them! It's like, I need my pills! Oh, it's a very serious thing, but we gotta laugh a little bit.
Act posed a risk.
That's a lot of demonstratives for both sides. Wow. This is gonna be a very audio-visually heavy holy good. Good. Like, that's impressive. That's good work then.
Of grave danger to another. It's not enough for the Commonwealth to prove the defendant acted negligently, that is, in a manner that reasonably careful persons would not have acted. The Commonwealth must prove that the defendant's actions went beyond negligence and amounted to wanton or reckless conduct, as I've defined that term. So in deciding whether the defendant knew or should have known her conduct created a high degree of likelihood that substantial harm would result to another, you may consider any credible evidence that the defendant suffered from a mental impairment or was affected by her consumption of prescription drugs. A defendant may have the requisite knowledge, even if she suffered from a mental impairment or consumed prescription drugs, but you may consider such evidence in determining whether the Commonwealth has proved this element. All right. So that's my instructions on the specific elements of the charges in this case. So at this point, I'm going to ask the attorneys to deliver their closing arguments. I just want to remind you, as important as they are, the closing arguments are not evidence. All right. And I'll go over that a little bit later, but I just wanted to remind you that. And so after we go through the closing arguments, I'll come back and give you the balance of my instructions on the law. All right. And so, counsel.
There's about 5 weeks ago that we met like this, and I indicated to you that thank you for incredible service. And all of us mean that sincerely. You took literally more than a month out of your lives and sat here attentively, incredible, through some of the toughest, most gut-wrenching things that any person can be subjected to. And I think I indicated that, sadly, jurors carry this from and with them for years. And the service that you have performed, I have never seen before. You have listened to evidence. You have been fair. You have been objective. You've listened to the judge's instructions, and you've carried.
Yeah, I want to rewind and watch him do that. Apparently, he's playing. He laid quarters down.
From and with them for years. And the service that you have performed. Weeks ago that we
There we go.
met like this, and I indicated to you that thank you for incredible service. And all of us mean that sincerely. You took literally more than a month out of your lives and sat here attentively, incredible, through some of the toughest, most gut-wrenching things that any person can be subjected to. And I think I indicated that, sadly, jurors carry this from and with them for years. And the service that you have performed, I have never seen before. You have listened
waiting.
to evidence. You have been fair. You have been objective. You've listened to the judge's instructions, and you've carried them into your heart, consistent with your oath, which is a very, very solemn oath. Pass between government and Lindsay, who has placed herself on her country, which country you are, as a jury of her peers. When you consider what's at stake here in the sense of what we've been dealing with. Cora, Dawson, Kelly. She knows loss. That's why we think Cora does. Kelly. For a minute. They are the victims of this case. They are the victims of the horrible, horrific act that has been laid at your feet as jurors to decide whether or not Lindsay is guilty. Beyond a reasonable doubt, as His Honor instructed you and will instruct you, what that means, that standard of proof that we as citizens in this country are so blessed to have, proof beyond a reasonable doubt before the government charges any citizen with a crime. I don't care how many cops you have in here, how many DAs are sitting here, how many people are sitting in the front row, and they're all going to sit there and be proud of this prosecution. I told you in the opening statement that this is a prosecution that has ripped the soul out of this girl. This is what they had. This is their family. How does this turn into this? How? Because of the damn medicine and the lousy medical care that she got. You can troop as many paid experts as you want to come in here and tell the jury, oh, well, she didn't say that she heard voices inside her head. She said she heard voices from outside her head. She said she was making chicken McNuggets. There was a bowl on the sofa. She wasn't making chicken McNuggets. She said something. As I think and I muse and I try real hard to tell you what my opinion is, that this woman was acting in her right mind when these children were killed. So, when you consider the evidence in this case, you consider the person who is in front of you, who is the defendant, as the government refers to her. And as Honorable wouldn't like to tell you, even though a person is a defendant in our system of justice, you don't have to defend against anything. The government has the burden of proof. When the DA decides to charge someone with a crime, he has the burden of proof. His assistants have the burden of proof to prove, number one, that Lindsay is guilty of this offense beyond a reasonable doubt, and then prove, number two, that Lindsay, at the time, killed her children, was not suffering from a mental disease or defect that caused her to have a lack of substantial capacity to appreciate, to know, to realize that what was being done while she was in a psychosis. But we'll laugh about that. It's just another woman. I guess it's just going to make an excuse. She's depressed. GAD, general anxiety. Give her a couple of pills, she'll be all right. You know from looking at the objective evidence in this case, this young lady, believe me, I don't have many clients like that. This young lady did nothing wrong in her life. She was a nurse, a daughter, a wife, and a darn good mother. You can see from the objective evidence, you can see, and you'll have all the exhibits for you to look at, and you can see by looking at these photographs, which you will have in the jury room. You can see the Facebook postings. You can see what she indicates about, for example, I just randomly grabbed this one, a son, my prince, that they would have you think she killed him first, cruelly because she didn't like him. That is repulsive. So she's living her life with Pat, her kids.
This isn't that bad of a closing. I mean, this is the stuff the state has said. Part of your argument, you know, remember, part of his argument is making the state look like a bunch of assholes. This is a very good way to accomplish that. So this isn't that bad. I think this is actually okay. Would I start out like this? No, but you know what? This man has been there, done that, and got the t-shirt doing it probably is almost as long as I've been alive. So I'll defer to him on this. So.
Having a great time that summer. Life is good. She had to go back to work. In an opening statement, I told you, I said, watch the evidence. Watch the manipulation. Because that's what this case was built upon originally and how it developed as the case progressed until it's in front of you. And how does that happen? Well, in the very beginning, going all the way back to when the first 911 call you had to suffer through was made. You could hear in the voice, Pat Clancy, the horror, what he had obviously experienced. You can see from the evidence that's before you, the injuries that she suffered. You will have in the jury room the exhibits that indicated the extent of the injuries from, I don't have to go through all of them, the extent of the injuries to slitting her throat, to slashing her wrists, throwing herself out a window, blood all over the bedroom floor, window open, screen slashed. Oh no, the screen wasn't slashed, my bad. That's what she thought. It's called a delusion. She was in psychosis when she thought it. Probably right here, sitting here, believes that she slashed the screen. She didn't. Subjective evidence. And why did we spend almost a week showing you the extent and the severity of that suicide attempt? The reason that we had to do that is because they were arguing that it was a fake suicide. Dinky little cuts, no bleeding. She didn't mean to kill herself. She's going to throw herself out the window, I guess, and slide down the house. Remember that one hanging off of the window? Sliding down the house, and Lindsay screwed up. And she hurt herself bad. You know that's not what happened. You know that she made the testimony of Dr. Velkovich, that she made a very, very significant suicide effort, slashing her wrist, slitting her throat. And isn't it interesting when you consider objective evidence? Googling slitting her throat, Googling suicide, Googling drugs, Googling side effects, Googling ketamine treatments, Googling all of these drugs, Googling the effects of Tufts medications, lorazepam, sertraline, hydroxyzine, lorazepam, lorazepam, trazodone, fluoxetine, zolpidem, myrtazine, clonazepam, quetiapine, diazepam, quetiapine. It goes on and on and on and on and on. We have chat and have the descriptions to see. And obviously, she wasn't consuming all.
He's going fat. Like guys, we're at 1.45 speed. But think about just belting these out does a great job at showing how ridiculous it is.
All of these at the same time, because one thing this kid did was try to do what she was supposed to do. She took the drugs as she was told to take them. She was religious in her obligations to take care of her health. She went to Dr. Tufts when she was a young lady living in a house with a husband and her babies, respected nurse, wife, friend, mother. Should have kept drinking, huh? That was a big deal, wasn't it? Remember that? We're just going to assassinate this young lady in every which way we can. Remember that evidence? I was concerned. She was drinking 5 drinks a day. She was worried about, you heard the evidence up to 2019. What are they talking about? She wasn't drinking while she had her kids. She wasn't drinking while she was breastfeeding. She would have a couple of beers with her friends. That's bad. We put that over in the bad pile. Right here. We spent all that time showing through Dr. Lapasada's testimony that this was a legitimate, dreadful, horrific suicide attempt. You think about this beautiful young girl throwing herself out a window. That's a quarter. I don't know if you have to play pool. I challenge you to tell this jury why we spent a week showing that she committed, as your witnesses.
Counsel, address the jury, please.
Said, their witnesses, serious suicide attempt. Remember that? Tried to kill herself. So now they're back off on that, and they'll agree. A serious suicide attempt.
Okay. Wow. Slapping the quarters down like he's taking the table. If you're that old, why don't you retire? Because the guy loves his work, and I'm sure he's very spry for his age. Why not if you can keep working?
That's why I say, watch the evidence. Watch the manipulation. Remember the argument with the bands. She took the bands out of the bag, put the gloves on. Talks to Dr. Lapasada on the Zoom. Slams the bands down out of the paper bag. Does the movement of the bands and yells at Lapasada and says, "Rat." They were just rat. You weren't nutted. Because you gotta get Lindsay tightening the band, right? You gotta hold it. You gotta hold it for a minute. You gotta hold it for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. That's why she needed the bands, not it. And then she said, it's like this. And they sprang open. Remember that? Dr. Lapasada said, yeah, I saw what you did. And she walked away like if the glove won't fit moment. Quarter number 2. What did Patrick Clancy testify to? You heard his testimony. He indicated clearly, unequivocally, they were knotted around the necks of those children to the point where he had to struggle. And it's your memory, not mine. If I say something you don't recall, forget it. It's what you remember the evidence to be. But clearly, I would suggest, he struggled to get it off of Dawson's over his head. And a police officer saw through the window. It's horrific stuff. But it's objective, and it shows the manipulation. This government, this prosecution is a mess. They would take their evidence and argue to you that she did not tie a knot and walk away, because as Dr. Lapasada said, you're talking about 4 or 5 seconds till somebody passes out. No, they got to have it 4 minutes, and that's not what the evidence shows, is it? So, as we move on, Lindsay's in the hospital. And this whole thing about conversations and she's talking to people and the kids are in the basement, her throat was crushed. You heard the 911 tape. You draw the inference, whether or not there's a conversation about where the children are, trying to kill myself, the kids are in the basement, all that. You determine whether or not that was something that could be discerned. And the police investigation, because as His Honor indicates, there are two things here. Number one, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that she's guilty, and number two, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that she was not suffering from a disease or defect, as His Honor instructed you at the time of these killings. Those are the two things they have to prove. And when the police charge somebody with a criminal offense, they have an obligation to investigate. And at the end of the day, when you're talking about, well, we've got the charges are before the court, you can sit there in the court, you can feel proud of yourself. Do a good investigation. Even though with this, you'll see the photograph of the cup and the powder. What is it? They don't even analyze it. Did they take pictures? Did they analyze? Did they test the blood? Did they? Lousy investigation of the case. Well, that's okay because she was guilty. They put her in the hospital, and she's the evil woman who killed the 3 innocent kids. And they're going to stand there while she's chained to the bed, paralyzed. You heard testimony from Dr. Zeisel. They weren't little fluffy cuffs that were securing her to the bed. They were handcuffs, not the medical treatment. Medical treatment would be, like restraints, so you don't do whatever, pull lines out and things. We're talking about when the big men were in there with their guns and their badges and they're sitting outside the door, and they're going to make sure that Lindsay Clancy, paralyzed, chained to the bed, doesn't get up and run away from the hospital, I guess, and they just have to suffer their way through. I guess I worked 8 hours, I had another shift, I had to work that night. This is the treatment. And what's important about that is what kind of treatment did this young lady get from the healthcare providers. Remember Meg Collins? She came in this court, Meg, you might remember. Tall woman, short blonde hair, squared away. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. She was not only a nurse taking care of her in the hospital, she advocated for her. She stood up for her patient. She protected her. During the pandemic, you know that Meg Collins was in that emergency room when half of us were hiding at home behind our computers, hoping that we're not going to die in a week, drinking our Chardonnay at 11 o'clock in the morning. Meg Collins was in a hospital.
Okay, I'm quit. I'm out. We're going to make COVID arguments. Come on, bro. I get it. You're playing to your crowd, and there probably are COVID goobers out there, but geez. Jeez. Blood day. Oh. So.
Treating people and advocating for them. That's an example of what nursing is all about. Not having attitude, not treating somebody like they're to be disdained. And what's even worse, she comes out of a coma. She is intubated. She has had major surgery of her broken, crushed spine, vertebrae, rib, thyroid. Massive, not my words, medical records, massive testimony, blood transfusion for the blood loss. And when someone, you've heard evidence, comes out of surgery, they are delusional. You've had anesthesia. Think about having a tooth pulled. Think about the trauma that somebody has when they're in a hospital bed laying there, paralyzed, unable to feel the lower half of their body, but able to feel with the meds and the pain medication and everything else, the damage to the spine. And then the hospital has a meeting. Remember the other doctor, I think it was Dr. Shah, Indian woman, wicked impressive. She was amazing. She had the facts. She was able to tell you exactly what she observed. He was able to tell you what they were doing to treat Lindsay. She treated her like a human being. She was a damn good doctor. Came in here and told you all of her observations about her and told you one of the things that ultimately that they were concerned about is they had to have this big confabulation about, we're going to take her off the healthcare process. They had to have lawyers. They had to have people there. They had to have her signing documents. They had to determine whether or not she was going to be signing something to have her parents take over because Pat was not going to be responsible for her care. Lawyers, cops, handcuffs. Do I need a lawyer? Write that down. All right, you're out there somewhere. Write that down. Boy, she wanted a lawyer. That's a bad thing. Must be guilty. Let's put that in the guilty pile. That's why she said that in a delirious state. Dealing with all of these people about that issue. But what's even more nefarious, you think about it, as I said, you're eye on the ball because of the manipulation. Paul Zeisel.
Facts, not evidence. They 100% talked about that. What are you going on about? They 100% brought this up.
Deal. I'm friends with the guy. You heard evidence that I called him.
I don't know why it's freezing, chat. Hold on.
I was with Pat a night or two after this incident in the bedroom with all the blood. I was with Pat taking evidence that the police didn't even see in their thorough investigation. And I was able, as you know now, certainly, to grab this. Why wouldn't the police have grabbed this? They're all empty. You can see when they were prescribed. You can see what they are. You can see what she took. You read the testimony. It's tough to take a handful of pills. Remember the guy saying that yesterday? Tough to take a handful of pills. Well, no, they were crushed. Oh, they were crushed. Okay. Where's the residue? Where's the crusher? Where's anything? Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Great investigation, guys. So you have a situation where they leave this behind. They don't even look at it. One of them, and again, you'll never know it. One of them testifies, well, they might have looked at it and saw it and just didn't seize it. Seriously? They go down to the kitchen, they seized every pill bottle that was in the cabinet, along with the books. And speaking of books, one of the things that they found, smoking gun. Good moms have scary thoughts. Hallelujah. Put that in the guilty pile. We're going to put this in a plastic bag. We're going to show it to a jury so they know that this young lady had scary thoughts. Turns out that Joletta gave it to her. So you have this evidence. You have evidence of sleep aids. You have evidence in the bag. Because obviously this stuff was just thrown in there. It wasn't in the bag when I saw it inside this thing here and we seized it. And we held it for 3.5 years. Anybody care about it? No. You had evidence that police knew that I had it. They could have it, they could look at it, they could analyze it, do whatever they wanted. They didn't have to. This here, you heard evidence. This is a little wish jar that they bought on their honeymoon in Hawaii many years prior to even having kids. And when you look inside it, you see that there's all sorts of little folded up pieces of paper. Some of them are dated, some of them aren't. They go all the way back to 2017, 2018, 20. And they reference her wishes to have healthy kids, her wishes for her kids to be successful, her wishes to have a good birth. Second time around, hoping for a good birth, worrying about the child with I forget, where they rubbed it. Anyway, this woman lived for her kids until she had the pleasure of running into Dr. Tufts of her 2 months experience. And after she ran into Dr. Tufts, it was not a wonderful life anymore. And what did Dr. Tufts do? And everybody laughs at me. I said the television. Okay, I know it's a telemedical thing on your telephone or on a Zoom. Take more pills. You have the medical records. You heard the testimony. You know her concerns. You know her fears. Does this seem like a young lady that didn't care and wanted to score more drugs on somebody? That's another repulsive allegation. I think the evidence is pretty clear. There's no basis for that at all. She was scared. September into October of 2022, young, vibrant, hardworking. You've heard all this, not my words, witnesses' words, holding goals for herself. Hardworking nurse, hardworking mother, would take the kids to the Kingsbury Club. That's another thing. Sounds pretty snooty, doesn't it? Oh, they're at the Kingsbury Club. It's a swimming pool and a place where you can exercise. Watch the manipulation. Because now you've got a situation where you've got manipulation with the Kingsbury Club, you've got manipulation with these other items here, and you've also got manipulation of Paul Zeisel. Told Lindsay what to say. Say that you're hearing voices. Think about how ugly that is. Because you know, beyond a reasonable doubt, even though we don't have any proof, you have no burden. You heard from Sheila. Remember Sheila, the woman that's the reverend or whatever, she's the chaplain at the Brigham and Women's Hospital. She didn't know Lindsay from anybody that night when she came in all broken up. And she told you that she continued. She was there when Lindsay came out of, was extubated. She was there when Lindsay was going through her treatments. She was there for 8 days before Paul Zeisel even knew Lindsay existed. But they would be in here telling you that Lindsay saw the psychologist because the lawyer went and got the psychologist to go and speak to her. And then you have these guys here, cops. They're having meetings, talking about it. They're talking about it. Must have been the shrink, must have been the psychologist, must have been Zeisel. He's the guy that told her what to say, and he did not. How can you ruin a man's reputation with the career that he has had and still has, thankfully, to put him in a position where he tells a broken young woman who is vilified by our society for killing her 3 children that he goes in the hospital and tells her to say she heard voices. Disgusting. So now you know that she told Sheila first that she heard voices. Command hallucination. She didn't say command hallucination. I heard voices. It was a male voice. Told me. You had these other guys that came in. The government's rebuttal witnesses. Very, very impressive. Very, very impressive. The first 2, Mac, we're going to decide. You've got the other doctor as well. So Mac is, why he was freaked out when I asked him where he stayed. And the other guy looked at me like his eyes were bugging. Why did I ask where he stayed? Whatever. Point is, they don't see her for years. And why? The other guy, Halbern, I think it was Halbern. He had to wait until maybe it was the last name, I forget. They had to process his payment from the DA's office to the school. Who cares? If you have an obligation to try and be objective, to try and even look as though you're competent and objective, why would you wait for so long? Why would you go with another guy? Why would you take this young lady and have her in a room and question her, one right after the other? Wouldn't you like to sit there and be questioned by Dr. Mack? Boy, that'd be an experience. 3 hours, 4 hours. And the other guy is going to pepper his questions at her as well between that period. The next day, she can take tests and then go back at it again with Mac and with Halvin. And she was cooperative. She was pleasant. She was friendly. She answered the questions and she owned what she did. She never ran from anything. She's gone through evaluation after evaluation after evaluation, recorded. You'll have the video to look at as they're questioning her, as she's sitting there in her wheelchair, hour after hour after hour, 3 years after this incident, but that's okay. You're busy. Paul Zell was there, literally, in Brigham and Women's, because I called him, because I was asked to represent this young lady. You heard evidence. I saw her in the hospital. I saw her laying in the bed broken. I saw her laying in the bed practically dead. I reached out to Dr. Zeisel. I asked him, please, can you talk to this woman? Concerned, as he testified, for her mental well-being. What kind of demons, what kind of horror was in her mind as she lay there paralyzed and hurting and medicated, swollen, tubes, pops, chains. He went and talked to her. Big deal. I asked him to go. You judge the credibility of a person. Did Paul Zeisel have the ring of truth when he told you that?
Why are we skipping? I don't know. Like it's running fine and like my internet's running fine. I don't know what to skip it's for. Sorry. So I don't know why.
He's there out of humane feeling to try to help this young lady. And he's been by her side for 3.5 years. Same thing as Sheila. Why would Sheila, for all this time, visit with Lindsay as she testified at the Tewksbury Hospital? She's not getting paid. She's not a hired gun. She's not somebody that's coming in to say something at my request. She loves Lindsay. He's a good kid. He's a beautiful soul. So you have Zeisel that has been with her all that time. You've got Sheila who's been with her all that time. You've got evidence that her mom and dad who live in Connecticut come up and they stay and they visit with her and that they sit with her. And God forbid they actually sometimes had dinner. Remember that? They got the Tewksbury records. Boy, there's a good score. Let's go through the Tewksbury records and see what she's doing on the anniversary of the deaths. How about on their birthdays? Can you see them sitting there going through the medical records? Okay, doctor, what did she do then? She propelled herself down the hallway, met with her parents, laughed, had dinner, watched TV, talked on the telephone. God forbid. She's not curled up in the fetal position, wailing, self-flagellating constantly. For 3.5 years, she's acting like a human being trying to exist. But they go through the records and they want to get those dates and use them against her manipulation. And then you consider we're 3 weeks away from a trial. The guy yesterday that's looking up to the heavens while he's testifying, Caesar, tells you that he wanted to establish a rapport. Can you imagine? You know that you're 3 weeks away from your murder trial, and you know that this is doctor number 3 who's been hired by the government to come in and evaluate you and testify against you. He's going to establish a report. There was no report, but yet she was cooperative. She was friendly. Interestingly enough, just like the treating doctors don't talk to each other, they don't communicate with each other, they don't have access to medical records. She signs the HIPAA forms. They don't know what her records are, but they know for sure what Dr. Resnick had in his report. They know for sure what Dr. Zeisel had in his report. They know for sure what Meg Spinelli had in her report, and they incorporate that into their report. But then you have the MMPI and the other psychological tests that were administered to her on the second day of the Mac Heilbrunn team interviewing, interrogating, questioning her. She passes the MMPI. Testimony is presented. She answered the MMPI honestly. And they're pertaining to state of mind. They're pertaining to questions about what occurred. They're questioning this young lady as to what her state of mind was then, in the middle, and now. And she didn't lie. She didn't malinga. She didn't exaggerate. And more importantly, if anything, she minimizes. But she certainly was off the chart on the suicide scale. And then you have testimony from Dr. Resnick, Dr. Zeisel, Dr. Parker. And they were paid for their testimony. We're all paid. Like I said, not the jury so much, but the judge himself, Chrissy, everybody gets paid. These doctors came in and testified. Phil Resnick, the man is something out of a scary movie. He has the world record of investigating, examining, and treating people in psychosis that kill their children, suicide. Okay. He has a world-renowned record for checking fakers to see if a person is malingering. Their doctor agreed that his article on Voices is a leading article with research in the world. Their doctor agreed that he, Bill Resnick, is an expert on malingering. You heard him testify by Zoom because he had surgery. But he showed up by Zoom and testified that, again, 4 months after this incident, he met with Lindsay, he evaluated Lindsay, compared, looked at all the records, just like all the rest of them. Everyone says, they looked at all the records, the police reports, grand jury minutes, everything else. He indicates clearly, in his opinion, that she was in a state of psychosis at the time of this death, times 3. Has any of the government doctors rebutted that? One of them, Heilbrunn, said it's possible either way. That's not proof beyond reasonable doubt. The other one, Mac, you can accept his testimony if you wish, but I suggest that you probably won't. And then you're left with the doctor yesterday, who didn't even know. She didn't even know what killing during the course of the psychosis was. And when I was questioning him about it, he agreed. And I said, don't just agree with me. You're just agreeing with me because I said that? And he basically said, yeah. What kind of expert testimony is this? It's a mess. But the government uses them to try to rebut a man like Phil Resnick, who tells you that she was suffering from a horrific mental disease and defect at the time of the killing of her beautiful children. Why? The how? And the fact that under the law, as His Honor has given you, she's not criminally responsible. And the burden is on them right here. Prove to you that at the time of the killing, as Dr. Resnick says, that she was suffering from a disease or defect. As Dr. Zeisel said, that she was suffering from a disease or defect. As Dr. Condi said, she was suffering from a disease or defect. And Condi took you down the road of all of these medications as a psychopharmacologist, as a doctor that specializes in prescription medications. And you got the evidence. So you're able to look at that and determine, see what the side effects are, what she was complaining of, and look at her records. I mean, they have really turned her inside out. I mean, they've got every single text, every single email, every single picture, everything that she did in college. Oh, that's another thing. She lied, according to the guy yesterday. She lied to Pat about being on Prozac. They were dating for 3 months. She's living in Boston. She meets this kid. She thinks that she might like him, and they're dating. Oh, excuse me, before you go out with me, let me tell you that about a year ago when I was studying for my exams, because I'm nervous about talking in public, I got on Prozac. Seriously, that's what the government is arguing in this case. You're going to have this journal, which talks about her being, this is how controlling she was, manipulation. In the opening statement, you may recall that the district attorney said that she was a hard-charging, manipulating woman that was controlling, and everything in their life was controlled, and she ran it to the water, to the carrots, to the beets. You look in this book, and as you might recall, Ms. Rossi testified when asked, did you feel that she was being controlling of you? Because she says, for example, Monday, 10:24, tell him, put down for a nap. Hopefully we'll nap for 2 hours. If he wakes shortly, let him resettle himself. Bottle when he wakes up. Then it goes on and on.
Oh, come on. This is getting good. He's laying it out. He's laying it out, chat. I actually think this is pretty good, what he's laying out here, so.
Make salad, romaine lettuce. He likes peppers, broccoli. Cut the sweet potatoes in chunks. Thank you, with the heart. Another good score. you look at her journals that she took, you'll see as you go along in the dates that she's recorded in these journals, she's talking about the drugs that she was
perfect. It's perfect.
Was prescribed. And look at the first page. Look at how detailed dates, how she felt, 10 milligrams Prozac, and it goes on like that, goes on through November into December. December 9th, 10th, 11th. Horrible intrusive thoughts. Horrible thoughts in the AM. Horrible thoughts. Horrible thoughts. No motivation. And then finally, horrible thoughts, no motivation, deeply depressed. Then that's around the time she went to Women and Infants Hospital, right? Looking for help. Look at this. As she runs into January, there's nothing other than little chicken scratches because her mind was gone. In January,
was fried,
she's on these drugs, and she's suffering from what you've heard is postpartum depression that can lead to postpartum psychosis. And you have these men coming in here that don't even know psychosis from schizophrenia as experts, telling you that if a woman doesn't have these symptoms, like it's a disease, symptoms of postpartum depression within 4 weeks, that's it. Lights out. You're not a person that can be considered. You're not a real person for purposes of postpartum depression and or postpartum psychosis. Well, I suggest that he's wrong. I suggest the second guy's wrong and the third guy. Well, actually, I didn't even know. It's your memory. If the gentleman, Mac, even knew, I think he said 4 weeks. It can go up to a year or longer. But we don't really know because you've heard the evidence. There's no evidence. There's nothing in the DSM, but that's Bible. God forbid you should go to Europe. You should look at the World Health Organization records. You should look at the way they treat pregnant women that have problems with their children. No, we're the most advanced country in the world. But we still have doctors that come in court on a murder trial and talk about a 4-week cutoff on something that they don't even know exists. They've never treated it. They've never written about it. You have terrorism experts. You have an expert that comes in and talks about his focus and his interests, and it's about juveniles and drugs. And like I said, kids that like to drink and smoke weed. Those are the experts, quote unquote, to support their burden to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Lindsay was not suffering from a disease or defect at the time she killed her children. You all remember this. October. This is not an evidence, it's micro-identification. It's too big. So, but basically it shows clearly and unequivocally the depths of despair that this young kid was in, trying to raise 3 kids, trying to be a wife, ready to go back to work. Did anyone say that she was just lazy or just didn't want to go back to work? That's manipulation. They're arguing. She didn't want to go back to work. She didn't want to go back to work because she didn't want to leave her kids, especially Callan, because she loved her children. They were her life. Manipulation. And when you consider the journals, I don't know, you ever watched the movie there, The Shining, with Jack Nicholson. Remember the scene when he's sitting there in a state of complete psychosis, and he's writing a book, and he's typing, and the wife finds the book and opens it up and looks at it and says, all work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy. Repeat it after repeat it after repeat it. And he says, do you like it? You look at the records of her Googling drugs. You look at how many times, how many hours of the night in the afternoon she's looking this stuff up, in between taking care of the family, in between all the stuff that was going on with visiting doctors, seeing doctors, going to Rhode Island, being told, no, we can't help you. Calling a suicide hotline, we can't help you. Calling another suicide hotline, we can't help you. My God, what does she have to do? She was reaching out for help, and she was not getting it. She turns herself in to McLean Hospital. You saw the doctor, nice one. She's testifying. She didn't know. I suggest to you that she didn't know hardly anything, let alone psychosis involving a young lady like her going through what she was going through. The government bears the burden of proof, beyond a reasonable doubt. They bring, for example, Ian Whiffen. The guy, you might remember him, was the guy that's, I guess he developed or helped develop Celebrate. What you get when you look at the records. You don't measure on an Apple Watch. Well, I shouldn't say Apple Watch because we know that they didn't have the Apple Watch, but on a cell phone. You don't measure going down the stairs. You measure stair climbing, right? That's what the testimony was. And there were 3 stairs that were climbed. Okay, the last record is 5:38. At 5:38 p.m., we went through that on cross. What happens to the phone? Don't know. It was on the bed. Was it dropped on the bed and left there for 20 minutes? She could have been anywhere in the house during all that period of time, right? Right. You've got a compressed period of time that Patrick leaves to go to the restaurant to pick up the CD, and you heard the guy yesterday say, and then she sent them off to go to CVS. It's on the way. It's on the way. She didn't want him out of the house long. She was in distress. She wanted him home to help with the baby, to help with the kids, to help putting them to bed. How long is he going to be gone? She Googles it. Is that something that is so nefarious? You think that goes right along the line with the book about good mothers having bad thoughts. My God, she actually Googled the time frame that Patrick would take.
Okay, I don't know what's going on here. Real quick, guys, just remember, this is Massachusetts, so somebody I think mentioned earlier, why is the defense going first? Massachusetts, the defense goes first, then the prosecution goes second. There's just no
Go to 3B
rebuttal.
and pick up the food and then leave.
So,
And stop at CVS on the way. So I guess the government is suggesting she's not in a psychosis. So she's Googling Miralax because the doctor earlier that day told her that the baby Cora needed Miralax. Why would she do that? Because remember the government's opening when they told you she wasn't suffering from a psychosis. She was a woman that didn't want to live her life anymore, wasn't happy being a mother, didn't want to live that life. So she's going to kill her kids and hopefully throw herself out the window and not paralyze herself, and then she could run off into the sunset, I guess. That's what their theory was, along with the fact it wasn't a real good suicide, it was fake. Well, now we know, don't we? The mess that this young lady was in her brain, my brain is being damaged. I will never be better. That's the evidence. That's the evidence that we have in this case. Burden of proof is on them to prove to you that at the time that she killed these 3 beautiful kids, that she just wanted to move on with her life. I suggest to you, just as there's no chicken nugget residue, and then when you look at those photographs, there's a slice of a cucumber, there's a slice of a carrot, there's no chicken nuggets in that bowl. Patrick wouldn't know what the kids were eating. She was the one that would cook their dinner. She was in the refrigerator, but the guy yesterday is like, oh no, Patrick said that the child was eating the chicken McNuggets in the bowl. No, she was getting food out for the 2 kids, not the little baby, 2 kids for dinner. There's no evidence that she's lying. There's no evidence that she's delivering. And finally, remember, there was a big deal about whether or not the voices are within the head or whether or not they're outside of the head. Dr. Resnick's article, with the largest research on voices malingering in the world, indicates that 38% of almost 1,000 people that were examined report voices from inside their head. And it stops. You're going to buy that guy yesterday? Yes. I know what he's talking about. This young lady is not guilty of the killing of her children because she was suffering from a disease and defect, as His Honor instructed you. And they're not going to be able to prove otherwise. And it's their burden, not ours. Thank you.
Hi, Kamal.
I mean, that was kind of like, I'd say probably like a 6.5 out of 10. He hit all the points. It's just I think it was a little disorganized, but I mean, overall, it got the job done. I think he's done a better job so far than the prosecutor. We'll see though. Here we go. Remember, they got a pretty easy one. They could just say 3 dead kids and basically hammer that the whole time. Let's see what they do. Yeah, it was a bit rambling. But it's hard not to when you have to hit all the bullshit from the prosecutor. So we'll see, though. Let's see what happens.
There's no dispute that Lindsay Clancy was suffering from mental illness and that she tried to kill herself. There's no dispute about that. All of the evidence that you've heard, even the experts that the Commonwealth put before you, say that she was suffering from mental illness and she tried to kill herself. That's not the issue in this trial. The issue is whether, at the time she killed Cora, Dawson, and Callan, she knew the difference between right and wrong, and whether she could conform her behavior to the requirements of the law. This case is not about our mental health system or how it treats women or what's in the DSM-5 and what's not. That's a distraction to get you angry and passionate about an important issue, but an issue that's not on trial here. What's on trial here, what the issue is here, is what Lindsay Clancy did the night of January 24th, 2023, and what her mental state was at the time. And you can use her psychological history and records, the treatment records, to look at both before and after she killed the kids, to look at how she got to that point, what her thought process was, what her motivation was. But it's not the system or the DSM or any of that that caused her to strangle her kids. In fact, she had more access to treatment and care and support than a lot of people did. She had health insurance that covered multiple doctors, multiple specialty programs, treatment at South Shore, at Mass General, her stay at McLean. She had prescription coverage to cover the different trials she went through. She had support at home. She had 18 weeks of maternity leave with the opportunity to extend that as much as she needed, which is excellent, which is what all women should have. But she had that. She had support from both sides of her family, hers and Patrick's. The 2 older kids, Cora and Dawson, were in preschool 3.5 days a week. And she had the nanny, Elaine, who helped with Callan 3 mornings a week. And she also helped her with housework and with food prep. This wasn't a woman suffering from a lack of care, a lack of resources. She had an abundance of help, an abundance of care. She had all of that and more.
You know, where they have to work with it, this is the stuff you'll point out. She had all the access. She had more access than most people would ever be able to have. You know, I think this is going to be a little different, though, because if they really can't afford to come here and say she lied or she faked it. Because remember, part of their argument was the beginning, she faked all this. She's faking it. She faked the suicide. It's like, well, I don't think that's going to happen here. So let's keep going.
And, you know, this doesn't mean that she wasn't struggling, that she wasn't dealing with mental health issues. She was. She had depression. And whether
you guys literally tried to make it sound like this was all bullshit the first time through. You did.
that's from bipolar or major depressive disorder or postpartum depression, it all boils down to she was depressed, right? And she was trying to deal with that, trying to get help for that. But it wasn't the fault of the providers that she was struggling with this or that she wasn't getting better. They were doing the best they could. You have the record, you heard the testimony. They were doing the best they could with the information she provided them. And that wasn't always accurate information. That wasn't always the full picture. And they were doing the best they could with her level of cooperation and compliance with the plan. Take her medications. You know from the records and from the pill bottles what she was prescribed and how she was supposed to take those medications. And you know from the pill bottles what she actually took. And sometimes those two things didn't align with what she told her providers, what she told Patrick, what she told her mother. You take the Zoloft, for example. The prescription was for one 25 milligram pill a day for 7 days, and then to go up to the 50 milligrams after 7 days. She told Dr. Tufts that she took the pills as prescribed for 7 days, went up on the 8th day to 50 milligrams, and that's when she had the insomnia and the other side effects and symptoms. She told Patrick that she took the pills for 7 days and they had no effect, so she called Dr. Tufts, who then told her to increase the dose. Well, you know what she told Patrick is not accurate because the pill bottle says, take it for a week and then increase it. That was the plan from the beginning. That wasn't the result of a phone call to Dr. Tufts. And you know what she told Dr. Tufts isn't accurate either because only 7 pills were taken from the bottle. So that leaves you two options. Either she took the medication as prescribed, 1 pill a day for 7 days, and then didn't increase it, which she says is what caused the side effects and the insomnia, or what she did was not take it as prescribed. She didn't do it 7 days and ease into it and then increase it. She either missed a dose or increased it early before she was supposed to. Either scenario is not good. She knows as a nurse the importance of following the instructions of your medications. She knows how important it is to follow the plan and do what's on the bottle and do what your provider tells you and to give that accurate information to your provider. She didn't say, I went up a dose, went up to 50 too early. Maybe they could have adjusted that and tried the 25 milligram for longer and eased her into it. But no, she told her that she did what she was told and then went up and had these problems. So you can see that in a lot of the medications she has. You have the pill bottles that were turned in by Patrick, and a lot of them don't even have many pills missing from the bottles. Some of them have none. The Buspar prescription, the first one, there's only 2 pills missing. The second prescription, no pills missing. The Lamictal, she never took those pills at all until the night she tried to kill herself. So there's a lack of compliance there, a lack of follow-through, a lack of communication with her providers about what was happening with her and how she was taking the medications. And if that's wants you to believe that this is a woman who's begging for help and willing to do anything and everything her providers tell her to do to get better. And she was asking for help. She wanted help. She wanted to get better. But she wanted to get better on her own terms, doing things her way, the way she thought she should do them. And as a nurse, she knew that's not the right way to approach it. She knew that an accurate medical history, accurate information about your side effects and symptoms, what your thoughts are, that's important for your providers to know. And she didn't do it. And it seems that the reason that she's not necessarily fully compliant and she's doing what she wants to do is she has this desire to be herself again. She just wants to go back to who she was, and she wants it now. And she doesn't want any side effects. She just wants to be herself again and wants it now. And that's understandable. That's relatable to want to get that magic pill that will fix you immediately and you can go back to being yourself. But
Come on. Holy cow. This is driving me crazy. Yeah, I mean, this is part of the issue, though.
she knew that's not how it worked. And you know that's what she was thinking.
They said before she wasn't trying to get better. So is she trying to get better? Which one is she doing? This bounces around a lot.
Because in the searches on her phone, she's searching for things like, which antidepressant works the fastest? How fast does Wellbutrin work? And she's searching all of these different medications for the side effects and symptoms, some of them that she never even discusses with her doctors. And, again, it's relatable that she wants to get back to where she was, but she had discussions with her providers about how these medications work and that it takes time for them to get into your system. It takes time for them to work. She even texted her mother about that, about how she knew that she had to be patient, that it took weeks for the amitriptyline, for example, to get into her system and worked. And she knew all of this, and she couldn't be patient. She couldn't wait. She wanted faster. She even told Dr. Tufts, it's a note in the records, that she knew the problem was that she wasn't focusing on one provider and following one plan. She knew that going from doctor to doctor, practice to practice, South Shore to MGH to different programs, not the best way to deal with the situation. She said it in her own words to Dr. Tufts, I need to stick with one provider and stick with one plan to see if it works. And she actually turned down help from at least 2 locations at various points. We talked a lot about the women and infants records. And you don't have to believe what I say about them or the witnesses say about them or defense. You can look at the records themselves. Page 9, it says right there, Patrick was the one who said over-medication was the issue. Not the doctors there, not the people evaluating her. What they put was depression, RO, rule out adverse medication effects. That means they have to look into it to see if medication's a problem. But there's a difference between an adverse effect, a symptom, or a problem with a medication and being over-medicated, taking too much of a medication or taking too many at one time. There's a difference there. And women and infants never said she was over-medicated. What they also don't do is turn her away. It's not that she went there and they said, can't help you, go away. They told her, it's in the records, based on the onset of her symptoms, they weren't sure if it was postpartum or peripartum. They saw she had an issue. They wanted to help her. It says there, they offered her 3 programs. They offered her the inpatient medical management program. They offered her a partial hospitalization program for general mental health. And they offered her an outpatient program. It shows they put a lot of thought into that, into offering her this care. When they gave her 3 separate options, considering she's a young mom, maybe she doesn't want to be away from home, but we'll give her the option of being in the hospital and getting her medications right. But we'll also give her the option of the partial hospitalization where she can, be here during the day and go home to her kids in the evening. And then that third option of being an outpatient and being able to be at home with her kids and come in for appointments. It was very thoughtful of them. It was very well planned out to give her these 3 options. And it's kind of the exact opposite of just turning someone away and saying, go away, we can't help you. And her response, I'm going to talk to my provider about it for guidance. And she goes to Dr. Tufts. She sees Gelada at some point. You look at the records, she never discussed those options with them. She told them that women and infants turned her away and said she didn't qualify for the program. She didn't discuss those 3 programs that they offered her. So basically, they give her this offer of help, 3 different forms of help, and she's just, no, doesn't want to do them and doesn't discuss it with her provider. And also that first time she goes to Mass General, to the emergency room, they offer her a bed at McLean, and she turns it down. She wants help. No one's saying she doesn't want help, but she's making these decisions and doing these things that aren't helping her get help, that are turning away help, because she wants the help in a certain way, in a certain time frame. And, all during this time, between September and December of 2022, she's interacting with friends, with family, teachers, gym staff, the nanny, people at gymnastics, interacting with them in public spaces, in public ways, driving her kids around, all throughout that time, able to know the difference between right and wrong, able to conform her behavior to the law and to the requirements of society, and interacting with others and presenting herself as a functioning adult, a functioning mom. You know that she knew the difference between right and wrong during that time because she had those thoughts at the beginning of December of harming her kids. And she told Patrick and her mother about them. But who she didn't tell is important and very telling. She didn't tell a single provider, not Tufts, not Gelada, not Jennifer McAllister, not Dukes, no one at McLean, no one at MGH, no one at South Shore, didn't tell any of them. And why? Because the police might take away her kids. That's a rational thought. But telling mandated reporters that you're having a thought of harming your kids, that they might be taken away for their safety, that's a rational thought. And it also shows she knew it was a bad thought, a wrong thought, because you don't think someone's going to take your kids away because you're thinking something positive or neutral. It's because it's bad. It's because it's wrong. It's because it's against the law. So she knew that it was wrong. And she was able to conform her behavior to the law because she didn't tell those providers.
How old was the kid? It was like 8 or 9 months. I don't know. If you're asking a question, it's fine. If you're trying to guilt trip me into something, don't care. I will say this is guys, it's 9:10. We're going to go for 5 more minutes and then switch over to the Thursday night show. This is actually a lot more put together than their opening. I will give her credit. They have pieced together a very airtight closing argument. I'm actually impressed with this. I wasn't expecting them to do that. I was not expecting them to do this. they kind of sucked already at this. So, you know, I'll give them a golf clap. They didn't fuck this up so far. So
she went in and met with them and talked about what she was experiencing and talked about her depression. And not only did she not tell them, she lied to them. They asked her, are you having thoughts of harming others? Do you have homicidal ideation? She told Tufts no. She told Gelada no. She told Dukes no. She told Goodhart no. Every day at McLean, she said no. At MGH, she said no. So not only is
said she was suicidal
hiding
multiple
it,
times.
she's lying about it. She's controlling her behavior. She's controlling the presentation she presents to her providers.
Okay.
Then we get to her being admitted to McLean. You know, up to that point, all of the drugs she's taken from September through December, they weren't given at the same time. The most she ever had at one time was 2 to 3 medications. And usually if it was 3, that third medication was the Benadryl or the hydroxyzine that's like Benadryl, or the Ativan or Valium as needed for anxiety. But most of the time it was 2 medications. And the way they did those medications, you heard from Dr. Satoff, a man who's examined thousands of patients with psychosis, who's treated women with postpartum psychosis, who's treated women who have killed their children, that man who apparently has no expertise. You heard from him that the medication trials were reasonable and rational. She tried a medication, it didn't work, or they had side effects, they stopped the medication. They tried something else. They tried a different combination. And unfortunately, with mental health, there's no blood test or CAT scan or MRI that you can do that says, well, you have bipolar or you have schizophrenia. It unfortunately doesn't work like that. So what the providers have to do is rely on what the patient's telling them. Hope that information is accurate. Rely on what they're observing about the patient and make a diagnosis. And then based on that diagnosis, have a treatment plan. And every patient reacts differently to medication. One patient could do fine on it, the next not. So they have to do that trial and error process, and it's normal, it's typical, it's reasonable. And that's what they did for her. And even if you believe that the number of different medications she took over that time or the combination of those medications affected her negatively, after McLean, they were out of her system. Some of them had been out of her system for months. Zoloft, she stopped in October. Other pills she stopped in November or December. And that last one, Seroquel, that she really had a bad reaction to, is out of her system. The only medication she's on leaving McLean is trazodone for sleep and Valium for anxiety. And that's it when she leaves there. And why does she leave there? She wants to go to Corey's birthday party. And that's relatable, that's understandable. She wants to be that mom again who can throw her daughter a party and enjoy it. It's completely understandable why she would want to leave, but she also knew she wasn't there. She knew how she was feeling. She knew she was depressed. She knew she needed help. But she wanted to be that mom she was more. And there was nothing McLean could do to keep her there. She said she denied suicidal ideation. She denied homicidal ideation. She said she wasn't hearing voices or seeing anything. They saw the entire time she was there, no signs of psychosis. In fact, every doctor she saw, from Tufts in September all the way through Tufts at January 23rd, none of them saw any signs of psychosis ever. So they're all wrong. All these different doctors at all these different practices, they're all collectively together wrong. That doesn't make sense. She shows when she's leaving McLean, no signs of psychosis. And they even give her a task to do to see if she can manage her mental health outside of the hospital. Make an appointment, pick a doctor, make an appointment. And she does it. She decides on Dr. Tufts. She makes the follow-up appointment. She gets the documentation and gives it to them, showing she can manage her mental health. They have to let her go at that point. She's there voluntarily. There's no grounds to keep her if she's not showing she's a danger to herself or others. So they let her go home. And at home, again, all throughout January, she's showing her ability.
Okay, showing her ability
to know right from wrong and to conform her behavior to the requirements of the law in all the activities she does in January. First, there's the birthday party. She's throwing the birthday party. She's monitoring the kids, making sure, typical mom birthday party stuff. Everyone's eating, getting cake, singing happy birthday. You saw her in the video. She appeared happy and smiling, normal. Everyone that interacted with her said, seemed a little tired, but okay. The Museum of Science, you have that video. The Museum of Science in Boston can be crowded and overwhelming on a good day. And she's there with 3 kids under 5 with her husband. You see her monitoring them, caring for them, doing the exhibits, showing them what to do with the exhibits. If you watched that video and you didn't know who the Clancy family was, and we asked you, pick out the woman who is depressed, pick out the woman who wants to kill herself, pick out the woman who's about to kill her kids, you couldn't pick her out. She's completely calm. All her behaviors are typical and normal because she's able to control her behavior. She's able to be suicidal and feel those things, but control her behavior, control her thoughts, and present that image to the world. She's able to do it at the Cape Cod as well. Similar scenario. She's able to watch the kids when Patrick goes to brunch. She's able to watch the boys when Patrick and Cora go skiing on the 16th. She's able to interact with the Carneys on January 22nd. And yeah, they both initially said she was quiet, but then they both admitted she was always kind of quiet. But she was able to interact with them, chat with them in the kitchen, seemed okay. In between January 7th and January 21st, her mother never comes to the house to intervene. Her sister, a licensed social worker, a mandated reporter, never comes to the house to intervene or help, never makes a report, and they're in contact with her every day, texting with her, calling with her almost every day, and never see any signs that they should be concerned or worried or intervene. And you have those text messages between the defendant and her mom. And her mom, obviously, was very attentive, very caring, asked very pointed questions. How are you doing? How are you sleeping? How are the medications? Obviously, a very concerned, loving mom. How did Lindsay answer? I'm getting a little better. I'm sleeping better. She said the only time her sleep was interrupted is if Cora had a bellyache or one of the kids was up. But she's doing better every day. She's sleeping better. She's feeling better. She still says, I'm not myself. I'm not where I want to be, but she's moving in the right direction. And we have that text from her mom the day she leaves on the 22nd, headed back home. I'm glad to see you're doing so much better. Now her mom wants you to believe that she lied to her, that she wasn't doing better and she was just trying to encourage her. But
okay, chat. That's it here. We're going to have to stop. We've got about a half hour of this left, it looks like, roughly. We'll finish this up after the Thursday night show, and then we'll head over to locals. But I gotta get over there. We gotta get done. So we're gonna leave it here. We'll catch up in a little bit. This is a far better closing than I expected. I will say they're doing better in Reddington. Reddington, if you had, they're actually doing a good job. Like I said, I will give them a good job. Black Ship Out Daily, thank you for being here. It's more of the same. Yeah, but it's better than what they were doing before. I'll give them credit. I will give them credit about that. Wish the feed was more clear, not stirring. I don't know, because some nights it's been going great, other nights it's not. I don't know what's going on here. But anyways, we'll finish up the little bit of this in a minute and then go forward from there. I don't know what to say, guys. I mean, it's a good closing is powerful, so we'll see if this works. We'll see if that's enough. I don't know if it will be. But we will get that. We will find out tonight. Let's see here. Redirect this, and we're going to make this go. Nope. And all right, guys, I'll see you in about 15 minutes. And then just remember till next time, chat, which will be probably around 11:30 or so. Just because you did it doesn't mean you're guilty. All right, chat. See ya. Let's make sure. Well, we're all set. Yeah, here we go. Okay.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fact